I believe my record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for
Hey,
America's
green
future
beans. Yes, I don't know
all
how to
merited
make
a
this
second
shit.
term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation. You know, there is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. There's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices. And that time and place is now. Over the next 6 months, I'll be focused on doing my job as president. That means I'll continue to lower costs for hardworking families, grow our economy. I'll keep defending our personal freedoms and our civil rights, from the right to vote to the right to choose. I'll keep calling out hate and extremism. Make it clear there is no place in America for political violence or any violence ever, period. I'm going to keep speaking out to protect our kids from gun violence. Our planet from climate crisis is the existential threat. And I will keep fighting for my cancer moonshot so we can end cancer as we know it, because we can do it. I'm going to call for Supreme Court reform because this is critical to our democracy, Supreme Court reform. You know, I will keep working to ensure America remains strong, secure, and the leader of the free world. I'm the first president in this century to report to the American people that the United States is not at war anywhere in the world. We'll keep rallying a coalition of proud
Wait a
nations to
minute,
stop
what?
Putin from taking over Ukraine and doing more damage. We'll keep NATO stronger, and I'll make it more powerful and more united than any time in all of our history. I'll keep doing the same for our allies in the Pacific. You know, when I came to office, the conventional wisdom was that China would inevitably surpass the United States. That's not the case anymore. And I'm going to keep working to end the war in Gaza, bring home all the hostages, and bring peace and security to the Middle East and end this war. We're also working around the clock to bring home Americans being unjustly detained all around the world.
You could have been done that. You decided to fuck with Brittany.
We've come so far since my inauguration. On that
He's
day,
talking like he ain't quit.
We're still in a winter
I'm still waiting for this shit
peril
to get done.
and a winter of possibilities.
Yeah, Jordan, I see you.
Peril and possibilities.
My man
We're in the
said,
grip of
what's
the
up,
war.
these
We were in the
niggas
grip of the
like-
worst
Yeah,
pandemic in
exactly.
the century, the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression, the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. We came together as Americans. We got through it. We emerged stronger, more prosperous, and more secure. Today, we have the strongest economy in the world, creating nearly 16 million new jobs, a record. Wages are up. Inflation continues to come down. The racial wealth gap is the lowest it's been in 20 years. We're literally rebuilding our entire nation, urban, suburban, rural, and tribal communities. Manufacturing has come back to America. We're leading the world again in chips and science and innovation. We
never
finally
led
beat
the
Big
world in
Pharma
science.
after all these years to lower the cost of prescription drugs for seniors. And I'm going to keep fighting to make sure we lower the cost for everyone, not just seniors. More people have health care today in America than ever before. And I
There's
signed
more
one of the
people
most
in
significant
America than
laws
ever
helping
before.
millions of veterans and their families who are exposed to toxic
There's a difference
materials.
between having health care and having good
You
health
know,
care.
most significant climate law ever in the history of the world. The first major gun safety law in 30 years. Today, violent
Child,
crime
who knows,
rate is at a
Green?
50-year low.
We probably never will.
We're also securing our border. Border crossings are lower today than when the previous administration left office. I've kept my commitment.
Yeah, they ain't got to cross the
become
border
the
because you're
first
going to
black
send
woman
planes to
to
bring
Supreme
your
Court
ass
of the
over
United
here.
States of America.
They ain't got to put in no
I
work.
also kept my commitment to have an administration that looks like America and be a president for all Americans.
Hello, honey horse.
That's what
Child,
I've
I don't
done.
know.
Democrats are running the country, sir. The
I
same
ran for
Democrats
president
always
4 years ago. because I believed and still
Good
do that
question.
the soul of America was at stake. The very nature of who we are was at stake. And that's still the case. America's an idea. An idea stronger than any army,
It's already
bigger than any
resigned, so
ocean,
supposedly this is the
more
farewell
powerful than any
address.
dictator or tyrant. It's the most powerful idea in the
I think
history
he
of the
did like
world.
leaving the day resign.
That idea is that we hold these truths to be self-evident.
He already said he ain't doing it. He
all
gonna
created
hand out the rest of his
Yeah,
time.
they was
Endowed
going to
by our
try
Creator
to
certain inalienable
force
rights,
him to use the 25th
life,
against
liberty,
him,
pursuit of
and
happiness.
this was the compromise.
We've never fully lived up to it, to this
But how
sacred
can you
idea.
run the country if you
We've
can't run
never
a
walked away
campaign?
from it either. And I do not believe the
Hell if
American
I know.
people will walk away from it now.
I mean, it's your boy, ain't it?
In just a few months,
This
the
Eric
American
Jordan
people will
boy
choose
right
the
here.
course of America's future. I made my choice. I've made my views
You got
known.
to come out
He is
t-shirt
gonna
on right
finish his
I'd
term.
like to thank our great Vice President Kamala Harris. She's experienced, she's tough, she's capable.
Of what?
She's been an incredible partner to me and a leader for our country.
Eric Jordan got a Harris t-shirt on right
Now
now.
the choice is up to you, the American people. When you make
Rip
that
it off
choice,
like Hulk Hogan.
remember the words of Benjamin
That part right
Franklin
there.
hanging on my wall here in the Oval Office, alongside the busts of Dr. King and Rosa Parks and Cesar Chavez. When Ben Franklin was asked, as he emerged from the convention going on, whether the founders
Look like it, real illusion.
had given America a monarchy or republic, Franklin's response was a republic, if you can keep
I
it.
don't know what the 8 o'clock
The
movie
republic,
was, by the
if
way.
you can keep it. Whether
Red,
we keep
shout out
our
to Red
republic is
Louisiana.
now
I
in your
don't know what
hands.
that was.
My fellow Americans, it's been the privilege of my life to serve this nation for over 50 years. Nowhere else on earth could a kid with a stutter from modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, one day sit behind the resolute desk in the Oval Office as President of the United States. But here I am. That's what's so special about America. We're a nation of promise and possibilities, of dreamers and doers, of ordinary Americans doing extraordinary things. I've given my heart and my soul to our nation.
The
Like
quote
so
unquote
many
deep
others.
state has already
I've been
spoken.
blessed
They shut down his
million
campaign.
times in return with the love and support of the American people. I hope you have some idea how grateful I am to all of you. The great thing about America is here,
Pastor, you been
kings
on
and dictators do
10
not
minutes and
rule.
you ain't got
The
the why
people
you
do.
leaving yet. Why you ain't running
History
yet?
is in your hands. The power is in your hands. The idea of America lies in your hands. You just have to keep faith, keep the faith. And remember who we are. We're the United States of America. And there's
Who
simply
you think
nothing,
hired that
nothing
sniper?
beyond our
This
capacity.
motherfucker got
We do it
encryption
together.
on his phone. The
Let's act
FBI
together.
can't crack.
Preserve our
How
democracy.
about that shit?
God bless you all. May God protect our troops. Thank you.
Hold up. Wait a minute. I know good hell well that ain't it.
Man, he ain't. I told you,
Nigga, you
Biden is
serious?
good. I told you Biden is good for 3 strokes. That's all you get.
Man, hold the hell on.
We give you 3
y'all.
strokes and he done.
What the fuck? Okay, maybe maybe I missed something, but he ain't never really get to why he went running.
And he ain't. That
What
wasn't
kind
part
of
of the deal.
hold up,
That
cause y'all
was
know.
not part of the deal.
Let me find some folks, cause I know somebody roasting his ass. Hold up, I got to find some people's for us. Hold on. Oh Jesus!
Why
what
y'all
the
here?
hell?
Welcome back, y'all. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, smash that bell, and share to your socials. Make sure you hit the cash
How
app.
heavy that must have
Yeah,
been.
here we go.
But
Yeah.
tonight he
He's
marshaled
faced the
all of that
nation.
and
We
said
gonna see this. Hold on.
that my personal ambition is not bigger than the stakes. And the stakes are, several different apocalyptic
says AI
versions of
Biden.
what would happen should Democrats
Joe ain't
lose this
told us
election.
shit.
And what was at stake included things like, does character in public life still matter? So he set the stakes, then put it all in the American voters' hands. It's all in your hands. You have to make, he seemed to be saying explicitly and implicitly to American voters, you have to make a momentous decision like the one I just made.
That's
And then, of
GMO
course, the
Biden,
personal
Gwen.
reference to himself
We've been
as a kid
genetically
with a stutter.
modified.
You have the most powerful man in the world
That
suddenly
Dick
shrinking
Cheney
Man, I
himself
ain't
to a
doing
little
this
kid
out. Joe,
as a
that
way
was
to
some
tell the story of
bullshit.
the
You done
promise of
wasted up my
America, that
time.
no matter
I
what your
could
beginnings, you can end up in the Oval
be
Office.
cool. I'm gonna
Some
be
soaring
cool.
rhetoric for a president not necessarily known for that kind of rhetoric.
You know, he also said, do we still believe in honesty and decency? That was right before that line you just mentioned. Does character in public life still matter? That's clearly a reference
They
to
got to get
Donald
that
Trump.
nigga milk
Absolutely.
like Mr. T to get
Not
him on
just the
airplane.
office, not just the foreign policy challenges, not just opportunity and whether it exists in America anymore, but whether the stuff inside of the American story, honesty, character, decency, respect, that's all on the table too. I mean, he put all the different chips and stakes in the center of the table tonight.
Robert Costa, and you heard that emphatic endorsement of his vice president, and also noting it's time for a generational change, which the Democratic Party, but many in the base have wanted.
And President Biden tonight adopting the rhetoric of
Child,
one of
them
his
good
heroes,
six-
the late President John F. Kennedy,
Hey,
passing the
Lady
torch
Nabo, what's
to a
going
new
on?
generation of Americans, a new generation of leadership inside the Democratic Party.
Man, do
Ahead
what
of this
she
speech
said,
tonight,
man.
I've
Hit
been
the
speaking
like
with some of his
button.
closest advisors, and there has always been a
Make sure
tension
y'all
at the
subscribe
heart
to
of the
both
Biden
channels, depending on where
presidency.
you
He
are.
is so ambitious,
You
and he
want the
talked
People's
about that
Podcast,
tonight.
come over here.
I always think about
Come over
March
here, go to the
1st,
People's Podcast,
2021, Laura.
subscribe.
He brought in senators to the Oval Office, and he looked up at the portrait of FDR on the wall, and he said, that's where we're going. He wanted to have a New Deal-sized presidency on domestic policy and on foreign policy. He wanted to be
You
truly
ain't
in
that
command.
dude though, Joe.
But the tension has always been, with that ambition has always been why he got into the race in the first place. Donald Trump. Charlottesville in 2017, the white supremacist march pulled him back into the riptide of politics. He decides to run in his political winter. And it is Donald
You
Trump's
all right, Lady
ascendancy
Nabo?
once
You
again,
good?
which is making him move toward this decision to leave the Democratic presidential race.
And Ed, you cover the White House, and in talking to the president's advisors, right, that FDR model. And he has had a legislatively successful presidency, reaching bipartisan achievements in many ways. And yet he has struggled to communicate that.
He has. And listening to what he wanted to work on in these final 6 months, it's a gargantuan list: inflation, the economy, civil rights and abortion rights, fighting extremism, gun control, climate change, his cancer moonshot project,
Middle East peace.
Middle East peace, which may be on the verge of a real breakthrough in the coming days. But what has always been the case with this president, from his campaign to tonight, is the editorial consistency, if you will, of his words and his mission. We're the United States of America. There's nothing we can do if we don't do it. Every single speech ends that way. But tying his inaugural to this farewell address, to talk about the winter of peril and the winter of possibilities, and hearkening back to that again today. One of the people he's been working with over the last several days, of course, is Mike Donnellan, his longtime speechwriter, who sits there with him and says,
That's all
how
y'all
do we
came
tie all
up
these
with?
things together? Remember, you're fighting for the soul of the nation. Tonight, pretty good capstone to all that work, if, in fact, this is the last speech many Americans remember from him.
Want to bring in our chief White House correspondent, Nancy Cordes. And Nancy, want to get your reaction to the president's remarks tonight.
Nora, we're getting a little bit of color from inside the Oval Office while this speech was taking place. And you've been in the Oval Office yourself many times. It's not that large of a room, but we're told that 39 people were crammed in there with the president to watch and pay tribute this evening as he gave this very difficult speech. Chief among them, his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, his children, Ashley Biden, Hunter Biden, and several of his grandchildren. This is a president who is famously
They
close
let
to his
felons in the
family,
White
and we
House?
know that his
Yeah.
family members from our reporting were among those who were pushing him to stay in the race as long as he was willing to do it. So it's a
Okay, so
difficult
what?
moment
Hey, April
for
and
him, a
Chris,
difficult moment for his family. And in
Talk
fact,
about that.
Ashley Biden, his daughter, we're told, had her eyes closed and was nodding silently and breathing deeply as her father spoke. And at one point, she even dabbed her eyes
Because
with
you don't
the
know,
sleeve
April, and
of
Chris,
her
you don't know.
shirt. This is a 51-year
Just
career.
yesterday, they asked him, why you drop out? He was like,
Biden
what?
That will be coming to an end
dropped
now
out.
in 6 months
how
in
he
a
was
way
looking.
that no one in the
Amanda,
family thought it
you
would.
child, you didn't miss nothing. We
There's
gonna
more to talk
play it back.
about
It won't be like
with the president's
10 minutes.
remarks tonight.
Yeah, it
but
was
I
only
also
5
mention
strokes,
that
baby.
Donald
Don't worry
Trump
about
Yeah,
it.
we'll
is
play it
in
back for you.
Charlotte,
You ain't
North
missed nothing.
Carolina tonight, where he
Say,
took
dang, I
credit
missed it like
for
it's a
Joe
Tyson
Biden dropping
fight.
out of the race. I want to bring in CBS's Nicole Killian. She was there for the rally.
Child,
And
told her
Nicole, I was
one hell
able
of a
to listen
speech,
to
child,
part of it, and he
Trump
pretty
was
much
telling
said tonight,
everybody.
no more Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah, that's right. And look, the president, former president, just ended his speech here in Charlotte. But before his speech, one of his aides told me that he would address President Biden tonight, given that he was making this speech at the White House. But when I asked if he would be more gracious or more pointed in his comments, the aide told me, well, he's just going to be Trump. And that's exactly what we saw from the former president tonight. He said that we defeated President Biden when he exited the race 3 days ago and suggested the Democratic Party leaders pushed him out. But he did make that hard pivot, really focusing the bulk of his speech on Vice President Kamala Harris, at times mispronouncing her name. Take a listen.
For 3.5 years, Lion Kamala Harris has been the ultra-liberal driving force behind every single Biden catastrophe. She is a radical left lunatic who will destroy our country.
So Trump continued to argue that Vice President Harris is unfit to lead. He went on to, as you heard him there, really tried to paint her to the left, the extreme left, saying that she is more liberal than President Biden, more liberal than Bernie Sanders. He called her a border czar, which is a phrase we're hearing Republicans use more often. He said that she is not tough on crime and tried to counter that by unveiling a new endorsement tonight from the National Association of Police Organizations. So it was quite a litany of attacks that the former president had against the vice president, certainly a sign of things to come over the next 100 days of this election, Nora.
Nicole Killian in Charlotte for us. Thank you very much. And ahead, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker will join us, and we'll look at the potential Democratic vice presidential candidates, including Governor Pritzker.
Make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure them likes is up.
Washington is the seat of power, national security, foreign policy, global economics. Every story comes through Washington in some way. We bring some of the most powerful voices in America to the table. We don't just ask the questions, you have to go deeper. We try to understand what's at the heart of the issue we're talking about to then come forward with solutions.
Face the Nation on CBS.
The justices ruled that Harvard and the University of North Carolina violated the Constitution.
In the aftermath of the Supreme Court decision to end affirmative action in college admissions, uncertainty sets in for some students of color.
Affirmative action really gave us an equal opportunity.
CBS Reports explores the historic decision and what it means for those chasing an opportunity to change their lives.
I knew that college was the ticket to break this cycle.
The end of affirmative action, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Coming up, our series. Wait a minute. Tom, is that you working the camera? Keep leaning out of your close-up.
Your morning routine just got better. CBS Mornings, weekdays at 7.
It's like a screenplay, something straight out of Hollywood.
Human remains found this week.
You're right.
As you know, 3 days ago, we officially defeated the worst president in the history of our country, crooked Joe Biden. So now we have a new victim to defeat, Lion Kamala Harris, Lion, L-Y-I-N apostrophe.
On the night that President Biden gave that historic speech, that was from the former president at his rally in Charlotte tonight. One person mentioned as a potential vice presidential candidate for the Democratic Party is Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. Governor, good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I do want to talk about the president in just a moment, but I want to give you the opportunity to respond to those attacks tonight from Donald Trump, who is calling the vice president a radical left lunatic who will destroy our country.
Look, that's all they've got is name calling. You know, we're talking about a woman who's going to stand up for women's reproductive rights, who has had a long history of standing up for workers' rights and voting rights and civil rights. And Donald Trump, of course, believes in none of those things and is on the attack against just average, everyday working people across the United States. So I think the contrast is clear. They're going to throw invectives. We're going to talk about the issues.
Governor Pritzker, I know you listened to President Biden tonight from the Oval Office and know him well. It was a soaring speech where he talked about nothing can stand in the way of saving our democracy. That includes my personal ambition, and talked about the stakes in that race. What did you make of his remarks?
You know, I have to say, I listened to it, and there was a particular part of it where he talked about, democracy being more important than one person. It's about the American people. And I can't imagine Donald Trump ever saying anything like that. Remember that Joe Biden has spent 50 years serving the public, not for his own interests, but to make sure that the working families of America have someone that they can rely upon in public office. That's been Joe Biden. He's a person of honesty and integrity, and we should all be proud that we've elected a president like this and look at all that he's accomplished. And I know that earlier in your program, you talked about, some of your guests talked about the allusion to FDR and all that he accomplished. Think about what Joe Biden did in just 3.5 years, getting bipartisan legislation passed, not just on gun safety and protecting a woman's right to choose, but think about the big issues like Chips and Science Act and the infrastructure bill, and of course the Inflation Reduction Act, and the way that he fought climate change and made sure that we're bringing manufacturing back to the United States. I mean, I'm proud of all that he's accomplished. We all should be, and we should want to elect somebody going forward who's a believer in those values and in carrying on not only the traditions of FDR, but the ones that have been established by Joe Biden too.
He also had this turn of phrase where he said there's a time and place for long years of experience, but there's also a time and place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices, and that time and place is now. Has this decision united the party? How has it changed the party?
Well, part of it is that Joe Biden being willing to make this sacrifice of his own career and future because he believes in democracy. I'm so proud of that. And I must say that in Kamala Harris, we have the kind of person who's going to carry on a tradition of democratic values that most Americans really believe in. And she's somebody that's going to make sure that we take that case to the American public in a way that is so hard for the Republicans to respond to, that you've seen all they've got is invectives to throw. So I'm very proud of what we're going to see going forward over the next 100 days of this campaign. And I do believe that the prosecutor is going to be able to prosecute the case against the 34
What'd you say?
felon
I was responding
accused of and convicted of fraud.
And Governor Pritzker,
they give
it's been
Obama
reported
credit
today
for a
that
lot
you
of
spoke
things
with
that
Kamala
Bush
Harris
did.
on the phone. You are on the list as a
The
possible
Obama
vice
phone
presidential
is not the
candidate. Did
Obama
you talk
phone.
about being her running
That
mate?
phone came out with Bush.
Look, I'm not going to talk about the private conversations that I've had. As you
Bush
know,
made
I've been
that
traveling the
happen.
country.
Bush
making
gave
the
us
case
an
for
advance
Democrats
on our
all across
taxes.
these great United States. I'm going to continue to do
And
that until
unfortunately,
Election Day and beyond.
bad
And I
shit
must
happened.
say that again, Kamala Harris has energized the party. I think we're all excited about the opportunity going forward.
He
to
working
make
hard
this
to get
case
this
to
damn
win back
VP
all the
bid.
voters that
He working
frankly
hard,
weren't
child,
so
because
turned
you
on
know
by
damn well,
both
Pritzker,
candidates,
you ain't
but
feeling
now
what you
see
talking about.
Kamala Harris as a real opportunity to carry this country forward.
Governor Pritzker of Illinois, good to see you. And we'll be in your state in August for the Democratic Convention.
It'll be a great summer in Chicago.
We'll see you soon. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Vetting a vice presidential candidate usually takes months, but today the Democratic Party said that Kamala Harris will have to name her running mate by August 7th. And CBS News can report that the Harris campaign is considering about a dozen contenders. That list includes governors, a senator, and those who aren't in elected office, including some cabinet secretaries. Want to bring back in Nancy Cordes, who is at the White House. And Nancy, walk through some of the governors that have been discussed, in addition to Governor Pritzker, who we just talked to.
Well, Nora, I'm just getting my microphone back on because we went running to investigate.
Nope.
We hear some big cheers behind us. The
No, well, you know
president-
what? Then hold on. I'll bring in Robert Costa next, to talk about
that's
some
why you
of the
need
other
to
governors too.
probably
Governor
vote Channel
Bashir has been mentioned.
Let's bring up that list again of all the contenders here. We'll go through them very quickly. Governor Bashir of Kentucky is near the top of the list. Youthful, could maybe bring the South into play for the Democrats. But you also have the Sun Belt in Arizona, really on the radar for Democrats. So Senator Mark Kelly, married to Gabrielle Giffords, who was survived an assassination attempt. He's a former astronaut. And so he's someone they really believe could bring people into the coalition from Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, that part of the country. It's a tough strategic choice, though, for Vice President Harris when she looks at the map. Does she want to play in the Sun Belt? Does she want to play in the Deep South? Democrats have made gains in places like North Carolina, especially in Georgia with 2 Senate seats. But it's also about personality, character. Who does she connect with? Who does she have a personal relationship with? I'm told she is close with Senator Kelly, but there's also the possibility somebody from the outside, though. Retired Admiral McRaven, Bill McRaven, who oversaw the bin Laden raid, he's taken himself out of consideration at this point. But there is a thought inside the White House, maybe broaden the net at this point of the discussion.
Is it about personality or is it about something more, especially in a tight contest like this? Mark Kelly, would he bring Arizona and its 11 electoral votes? Or does she need Governor Shapiro for the 20 electoral votes and the must-win state of Pennsylvania?
And that's part of the calculation between her and the senior staff of the campaign, because they still see ways to win both those areas. The blue wall, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Maybe Minnesota has to be worried about too now because the Trump surge has kind of started, or he's at least seeing some growth. And then the Sun Belt, Nevada, Arizona. There's concern about New Mexico. Do you need to bring someone from there? And what would it be like to have 2 Westerners essentially on the ticket? That would be new as well. So all of those things are factors, but perhaps the biggest one is going to be if she's a prosecutor and a senator and someone who's been a vice president from the West, from an urban area. Do you perhaps have to worry about geography and where someone else can bring in some more votes?
And you have to engage in the age-old debate about whether vice presidential candidates really matter at all. Now, as soon as I say that, there was a time when people said, well, debates don't matter either. Debates matter. Yeah. So nevertheless, you have to figure out that question. And one thing about Kelly that somebody's mentioned to me about why he might be an attractive candidate is because we can see from Donald Trump's speech and already the attack lines from Republicans is they're trying to say it. Kamala Harris is the other. She is someone else outside of the American story. If you pair that with an astronaut, there's nothing more at the center of the American story than an astronaut. So in that sense,
was a cop.
Yeah. And so in that sense, the pick helps you with the central candidate. So that's a way to think about this too.
Yeah, I want to bring back in Nancy Cordes with a microphone on, Nancy, because I know you've been doing a lot of reporting on this too.
No problem. I mean, just to explain to you what just happened, the reason I ripped the microphone off was because suddenly we were standing here and heard this huge cheer from behind us in the direction of the Rose Garden, and then heard the president's voice saying, hello, hello, hello. And so we went running to investigate and see what was going on. It turns out that hundreds of White House staffers stayed late here at the White House this evening to gather together to watch the president's speech. And then it sounds like they went either over to the South Lawn or into the Rose Garden. After the speech, the president emerged from the Oval Office and greeted them. And we couldn't hear much of what he was saying. We could just hear the crowd periodically cheering. These are people who have worked for President Biden, in some cases a few years, in some cases decades. He is beloved here. And it's really been a bittersweet time for staffers here who are glad that he has made a decision, but also feel pretty sad about the way that things have turned out. And so I just wanted to fill you in a little bit on that moment, which was a kind of an interesting and bittersweet moment happening here at the White House. Now, back to what you've all been talking about, which is the hunt for a vice president. What we learned today is that the list of potential VP candidates that are being vetted in earnest is about a dozen, maybe 11, maybe 13. They include many of the governors that you've been discussing, a couple of cabinet secretaries as well. And there are also a couple of people on the list, I'm told, who are not in elective office right now. We're working to learn who those individuals might be, but we're told that some of the people who are being looked at began having conversations with the vetting team yesterday. They're on a compressed timeline. They want to get this done within the next couple of weeks.
Nancy Cordes with all that reporting. Thank you very much. And ahead, we'll talk more about the president's historic speech tonight.
I need to know what was historic about this. Please educate me.
Historic my ass. That little 3-stroke special,
This is what I'm talking about.
Okay, so let's just start at the beginning.
I got highlight, mental highlight reels last longer than that.
answer then?
Do you know why?
You want me to
Better
just
lose
keep
that.
going?
I mean, she's already gonna lose, but I mean, she's gonna make it disastrous.
What's wrong with
to
that?
another woman
Are you
with her.
saying they lied?
Have you told the government that? Why won't you say the word crisis?
You're not answering my question.
Is that scary?
Does that make sense?
What do you mean?
What does that mean?
Did any of that make sense?
What's your response?
They can't pick a woman. They can't have a dual woman.
For the CBS News.
That's what I'm saying. Like they really don't want to
Sunday
win.
on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
There is no more room in our city.
New York City is receiving record numbers of migrants.
Today, we're going to have more than 500 adults and children come through that door.
Tensions rise as shelters reach max capacity.
We don't have to take care of
CBS Reports goes inside
Well,
a
let Bernie
crisis
run it.
cities
You
and
say
families
we
are facing
know.
as they fight to
Bernie
survive.
need to go ahead and
The
make
United
a
States
make a
still
power
has
move.
that glimmer of hope.
Bernie still laughing.
Fighting for a future. Now streaming.
Oh yeah, I
on
wrote
free
the damn bill.
Child, Bernie somewhere laughing. He ain't finna
Straight out of Hollywood.
But it's not fiction. It's 48
Bernie
hours.
somewhere laughing.
You never listen. I wrote the bill, and you don't listen.
Evidence.
The mystery would haunt investigators for years.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Michelle can't help them either.
Novel.
A gripping.
That is not gonna bring in the Caucasian man vote.
Now streaming on the free CBS.
Yeah, we tried the Michelle experiment before. It was called Hillary Clinton. Nobody likes Michelle. We liked her husband.
I ain't even like
Nobody
him. Shit.
Nobody liked Hillary. We liked
My money was messed up back then too. Shit.
I'm not sure the world is prepared for this.
What is that? Is that Saturday?
Who's the best coach in college football today? Let me see the mirror.
It's time for the CBS News original 60 Minutes.
What time
Sundays
is
on
popping on?
CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
8 o'clock.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want.
Child, yeah, Joe, you done wasted our time, sir.
Real crimes,
Like a John Grisham novel come to life.
real lives.
For real. And this America. It ain't gonna be not in this type of. First off, let's just be honest and call it what it is. The only group of men who would somewhat be okay with a woman being in charge, and I hate to say this, but it's true, it's black men, and that's because they've been conditioned. Ain't no other group of men gonna let no woman run the damn country.
And it's too late for that.
That
Now,
shit ain't happening.
the only group of black men is going to be older black men.
True. This is true.
This sacred task.
So if you're looking at like
Perfecting our
definitely millennials and
It's not about
under,
me. It's about
they
you,
ain't having that shit.
your families, your futures.
All right, so this whole
We the people.
hold on.
We
Yeah, y'all
can
replay
get
this
that.
shit.
And I never have.
The president tonight saying, I revere this office, but I love my country more. For the first time, addressing the American people and explaining why he wanted to step down from reelection.
I'm sure Red
John
Bull-
Dickerson,
I'm sure you
it was a
are.
remarkable speech, a historic speech.
And a deeply personal speech.
And they quit
And,
compared to the
you know,
white
I'm
man.
sorry, Amanda. I didn't mean to do
he had to do three things. He had
It had to be
to
something.
talk about the personal reasons, also talk about the stakes and set them up, connect those two, and then create a path for his vice president. And when he talks about the future, when you watch Vice President Harris talk about the future, because of her age, because she is that new generation that he talked about, it's much easier for her to talk about the future. She conveys future.
Yeah, you always
Whereas
gonna
that
see
was always
that,
very
I
difficult
guess
for him.
compared to Joe, she is young.
And
This bitch ain't
you know,
young.
this is
Red and
only the
Louis,
fourth
you're always
Oval
gonna
Office speech.
see-
This will be the one everyone remembers.
It's always a
Robert, I'm also just
Yes,
struck how much he talked about character, and
always
character in public
yes.
office.
You always gonna
He
see that.
underscored character at every turn, and he avoided the reality of this moment, which is that this was a very painful
Now let's get the
decision
lights up.
for President Biden to make. His family, as Nancy reported,
good
in the
thing,
Oval Office with him.
The
They were with
Saints
him
don't
in Rehoboth
participate
Beach,
in
Delaware,
voting.
last
They
weekend,
don't
thinking
participate
through,
in
could he
politics.
find a way to stay
They
in
just
this
talk a
race?
lot of
Because
shit.
for President Biden, you talk to his family, his closest advisors, he was counted out from day one in his 20s. In law school, making his way up the ranks in Delaware, runs for the Senate at the age of 29, surprises
It probably-
everyone by
I mean, it
winning in
probably would happen on that
1972,
side before it was
surprises
on.
everyone when he endures personal tragedy with the death
how
of his
about the
wife and
first
daughter,
black
serves in the
president
Senate.
be
I've
black?
talked to some of his colleagues in the Senate. They said
That
he was
part right
discounted
there.
in the
I
Senate.
need to be able to trace
Some of the older senators thought he was a nobody, a kid. Took him decades to formulate his own presence in the United
Obama
States
was
Senate.
not black.
He flames out in 1988,
Kamala
deals
is
with an
not black.
aneurysm, a plagiarism scandal. He always has pushed back against those who say Biden can't make it. Biden's not major
Obama
league
was an
level in
African-American.
politics. He just trudges forward. And he was
Not a
going to
black
trudge
man.
forward again, but he relented this time because he likes to associate, as he did at the top of the speech, with the grander idea of America and American presidential history. He wants to be remembered clearly as someone who put character above personal ambition.
And that is in many ways what will continue to be fought out on the campaign trail. Want to point out tonight something that John noticed on X, which is a tweet. What do we call it now on X? Another way, something on X.
Who knows?
Post on
Yes.
X, yes, by Jill Biden, in which she talks
are
about
with your
thanking
father,
those who
okay?
never wavered, to
let's
those
stop
who refused to
mixing all of
doubt,
these
to
shit
those
up.
who always believed. My
You
heart
are
is full
with
of
your
gratitude.
father
Thank you
and
for the trust you put in Joe. Now it's time to put that trust in Kamala. Love, Jill. That handwritten note to those who never wavered. Who's she sending a message to?
And hat tip there to our Annie Cohen, who highlighted that to me. She's talking about all those people who pushed out President Biden, as Bob was just talking about, the people who were putting the pressure on the door that tough weekend in Rehoboth, and who were saying, essentially, if you don't make the decision, we're going to help you make it for yourself, which is to say there's more coming. What Joe Biden is saying is there were lots of people who were not putting that pressure on him and still believed in him, in keeping with that long history, that there's a core person to believe with in there. That's a pretty striking statement.
And for many in the Democratic Party, Joe Biden had become, and the issues that he was having communicating what he had accomplished had overshadowed the ability to focus on the issues. And Ed, this campaign is going to be about the economy. It's going to be about money, people's pocketbooks. It's going to be about immigration, all of that. And I know you're taking a closer look at those issues tonight, because I think people want to know, what is the difference on these issues between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump?
Yeah, and look, the contrast is sharp. She's, of course, a 59-year-old woman, former prosecutor and senator who would be the first female president. Donald Trump, 78 years old, a businessman and former president, and would be the oldest commander-in-chief ever by the time he ends a potential second term. And when it comes to issues voters worry most about, Harris and Trump are far apart.
I will proudly put my record against his any day of the week.
4 months from now, we will have an incredible victory.
Immigration and border security remain a top concern.
The invasion at our southern border, we will stop it, and we will stop it quickly.
Former President Donald Trump and other GOP critics call Vice President Harris the so-called border czar. But President Biden asked her to focus on the root causes of immigration, not border security. A visit to Central America and Mexico in 2021 was widely panned.
Do not come. Do not come.
She supports the president's decision to use executive authority and restrict border crossings, and illegal crossings from Central America are down significantly from when she visited. Trump says if reelected, he'd restart construction of a border wall, move to end so-called birthright citizenship, and deport millions of undocumented immigrants. Access to abortion services is a top focus for Harris.
This is a healthcare crisis.
That is
and
not
we
a
all know
healthcare
who is
crisis.
to blame. Donald Trump.
He nominated 3 justices that voted to end Roe versus Wade. Now, Trump says he wouldn't sign a federal abortion ban, believing it's up to each state to decide. Hoping to avoid the issue, the Republican National Committee even watered down mentions of abortion in the official GOP platform. And Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, has a more restrictive view, as he's supported a national abortion ban in the past. Harris wants to restore federal abortion protections.
When I am president of the United States, and when Congress passes a law to restore those freedoms, I will sign it into law.
On the economy,
We will end the inflation nightmare that you would have never had. We had no inflation.
Trump has laid out several specifics. He'd like to cut the corporate tax rate and has made a direct appeal to working-class voters.
When I get to office, we are going to not charge taxes on tips, people making tips.
He wants to impose a 10% tariff on all U.S. imports, a move economists warn would lead to higher prices for consumers.
He intends to give tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations and make working families foot the bill.
As a senator, Harris voted against Trump's U.S. Mexico-Canada trade deal. She's quickly adopted Biden's focus on the middle class.
Building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency.
But just a few days in, she's not yet said what she'd do to fight inflation and boost the economy. On foreign policy, Trump often says the war in Ukraine wouldn't have happened with him in office.
I could stop wars with a telephone call.
He and Vance have said the war isn't a vital interest to the U.S. In the Middle East, Trump also supported Israel's fight against Hamas, but has also criticized Benjamin Netanyahu's leadership. Harris is closely involved in Biden's handling of the wars in Ukraine and the Middle East. Alongside him for most of his national security briefings, she's also attended key global conferences around the world and met with hundreds of world leaders, including 6 meetings with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in the last 2 years. And we get a chance to see how Harris and Trump would fare on the world stage starting tomorrow when she meets with Prime Minister Netanyahu here in Washington. Then he's headed down to see Trump at Mar-a-Lago on Friday, Nora.
Thank you, Ed. That was nice to hear the contrast between the two of them. Thank you so much. And up next, from money to memes, we're going to take a closer look at Kamala Harris's momentum and how former President Trump is reacting.
What's the fucking news? Y'all talk about memes. Like, are y'all serious? Let me see what else going on. What you think about all this, V?
I was expecting her to say something too. I mean, it's just like he really didn't say anything like what he was supposed to say. We were supposed to get some kind of explanation.
Damn thing. Hold up, let me see if I can find it because anyway, it's on my shit.
We're supposed to get some kind of explanation as to why he was dropping out.
Right.
Not more. I mean, he sounded like he was still campaigning.
Child, listen. Yeah, okay, let's see. Let's see what Fox talk about.
In court is significant. Absolutely. It won't happen on his watch, certainly. And he referenced, obviously, Kamala Harris, who out here in California we're very familiar with.
She hasn't.
You know, other than that, this was kind of putting a ribbon around his presidency.
You know, that's the thing, Tom. I was asking our previous guest, for the next 6 months, how can reporters or even, you know, Biden aides and advisors and even the American people look at Joe Biden when he meets with the world leader, when he makes a policy pronouncement, and not think in the back of their mind, he's not going to be president for much longer. You know, it seemed like Brian, Tom, was alluding to the fact that this somewhat smacked of a resignation speech. Did you get that?
Well, you know, it's interesting. If you look at the structuring of the speech, you know, of course, we're all writers. And, you know, God knows I could put my stories together better like that. Don't forget the kicker. If you look at it over the course of 12 minutes, and this is what I'm thinking about as I, you know, write my piece off of this, is number one, again, it's the John Meacham influence.
Sure.
It was buttoned up real nice at the end there. It hit the points that they needed to. In some ways, it's one part American mythology, telling the story of America, of Ben Franklin.
He really called him
as he talked about there. One part about his legacy, touting his accomplishments, which does give the impression here that, hey, you know what? I'm probably not going to get Supreme Court reform done. Okay, that's probably not happening.
Yeah.
He flicked Kamala Harris there, gave her a nod, but didn't lean too hard into it. And I think that was important as well, because if this had veered into the
Y'all don't want her ass to
direction of a
win. Let's be
partisan
real.
speech, it would have lost its power.
I see. You know, Brian, I wanted to ask.
A historic speech. It would have been another partisan pot shot. And by giving her one or two lines in there, that was all you needed to do. I felt that he grasped the gravity of this moment.
All right, Brian, I wanted to ask too, because I had been wondering whether or not, Biden is going to be intimately involved in now the Harris campaign as well. And his theme throughout his campaign and his presidency has been threats to democracy, the soul of the nation. He said it so often on the campaign trail in 2019 and 2020 here. Do you think it kind of sunk in for viewers watching the gravity of his line that he so often uses? I was talking to Tom that it seemed like an implicit acknowledgement that he realized the polls showed that he would probably lose to Donald Trump. And there he had it. He put his ambition aside. He said, I'm bowing out of the race. And Kamala Harris can see how she fares against Donald Trump because the threat to democracy is so great. I mean, Donald Trump just on the campaign stage there in Charlotte kind of mocked the idea of being a threat to democracy. Something that I also noticed was he didn't directly address his Democratic primary voters, 14 million of them, who you can make the argument maybe were disenfranchised by all the hijinks going on in the Democratic Party as of late here. Should he have spoken to them directly, Brian?
To me, again, that wasn't this type of speech.
Okay.
And I've been around a lot of speeches. I think, to Tom's point, he soft-pedaled criticism. It was not partisan. I think he was trying to set his place in history. Okay. And again, I talk about history a lot because in this case, whether he wants to paint this as a situation where he thought he merited a second term, but he's doing what's right for the nation, give him his due. That's what he wants to say on his way out. But I'd remind viewers that Lyndon Johnson faced the same problem in March of 1968 after he barely won the New Hampshire primary and was mired in the Vietnam War, and he took the decision to walk away. Similarly, Harry Truman lost his first primary in 1952, and he walked away. And they gave similar speeches in the sense of, hey, I've given my heart and soul to the nation and I'm moving on. Yeah. That to me was the speech tonight. It was a heart and soul to the nation speech.
All right, we're going to have to leave it at that. Tom LoBianco, Brian Sobel, can't thank you enough for all your analysis and insight, not just tonight, but over the course of the last 2 weeks, you guys. We'll talk again.
Have a good evening. Yep.
All right, in the meantime here, before we go to a quick commercial break, we do have former President Donald Trump weighing in after the speech wrapped up there from Biden. I want to put up this from Doug Mills there, chief photographer at the New York Times, traveling with Trump in Charlotte, saying Trump watches President Biden's address to the nation from his plane following a rally there in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, so that airport in record time.
What an image there as well. How the race, the presidential election, looks so different.
They cleared all the shit.
We also have
they were playing no game.
Trump in response, saying crooked Joe Biden's Oval Office speech was barely understandable and so bad. That's Trump's reaction to Biden's speech.
He ain't lying.
All right, like I said, and Brian Sobel kind of alluded to some of the history behind this. I'm going to recount it for you yet again. So, in each election that the two previous presidents who walked away from re-election, that was Harry Truman and Lyndon Johnson, a Republican would go on to win the White House and defeat the Democratic candidate. So I thought that was interesting parallels from then to now. So Eisenhower against Adlai Stevenson, the Democrat in 1952. Obviously, we know Eisenhower won that election after the Democrat Truman bowed out of the race. Nixon against Hubert Humphrey, the Democrat in 1968. Nixon beating Humphrey quite handedly there in 68 in the wake of Johnson saying he would not seek re-election. So we have two previous examples in modern American history of two previous Democratic presidents saying that they were not going to seek re-election. And then in the wake of that decision, a Republican comes to the White House. Also, Truman and Johnson were both Democratic vice presidents who assumed the highest office upon the death of the president, making their time in office considerably longer than Biden's 3.5 years so far. Also, we have the number of days between the announcement that they will not seek re-election and election day. So Biden is at 107 days, quite last minute. LBJ was at 219 days, and Truman was at 220 days. So just some fun kind of presidential trivia there as well. Let's take our final commercial break of the hour. We have a lot more in store on this Wednesday. We'll see everyone in 2 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, God's gift have just blessed the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Death Note is in the house. Best moderator on YouTube. Shout out to Death Note.
Damn music. Crying shame, y'all. Crying shame. We don't know what that. Joe didn't say nothing. No, I'm still finna see if I can find it, y'all. Hold on. Cause Joe ain't told us shit.
Nothing. He don't know where he at half the time.
So y'all can find something y'all can see this.
I told you that did you ever see the video footage when a reporter asked him why he dropped out yesterday?
I'm
telling you, the look on his face like, the fuck you talking about? That's how he looked. Like what? Like what the fuck you talking about? Like I ain't quit. Like that's how he looked. And he just walked away like laughing like this dude crazy.
Get your whole life.
That's Death Note boy, man. You know you gotta.
All right, hold on. Here you go. For those of y'all who didn't see it, here you go. Hold up, this Joe.
My fellow Americans, I'm speaking to you tonight from behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. In this sacred space, I'm surrounded by portraits of extraordinary American presidents. Thomas Jefferson wrote the immortal words that guide this nation. George Washington showed us presidents are not kings. Abraham Lincoln, who implored us to reject malice. Franklin Roosevelt, who inspired us to reject fear. I revere this office, but I love my country more. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. But in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think is more important than any title. I draw strength and I find joy in working for the American people. But this sacred task of perfecting our union, it's not about me. It's about you, your families, your futures. It's about we, the people. We can never forget that. And I never have. I've made it clear that I believe America is at an inflection point. One of those rare moments in history when the decisions we make now will determine our fate of our nation and the world for decades to come. America's going to have to choose between moving forward or backward, between hope and hate, between unity and division. We have to decide, do we still believe in honesty, decency, respect, freedom, justice, and democracy? In this moment, we can see those we disagree with not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. Can we do that? Does character in public life still matter? I believe you know the answer to these questions. Because I know you, the American people,
telling his story,
and I know
like a
this.
spooky story at the
We are a
campfire.
great nation.
Wow.
Because we are good people.
That's how he sound.
When you elected me to this office, I promised to always level with you, to tell you the truth.
Why
The
you
truth.
quitting then?
The sacred cause of this country
Yeah,
is
we can't
larger than
say
any
that,
one of
Joe.
us. And those of us who cherish that cause, cherish it so much, a cause of American democracy itself, must unite to protect it. You know, in recent weeks, it's become clear to me that I need to unite my party in this critical endeavor. I believe my record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our
Oh, it's
democracy.
like that, Mona?
That includes
Like
personal
that?
ambition. So I've decided the best way forward
Hey, Mom.
is to pass the torch to a new generation.
For real?
That's the best way to unite our nation. You know, there is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. There's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices. And that time and place is now. Over the next 6 months, I'll be focused on doing my job as president.
It's okay, Mo.
That
We
means I'll
broke up
continue to
the rest
lower
of this
costs for
live.
hardworking families, grow our economy. I'll keep defending our personal freedoms and our civil rights,
Pre-recorded
from
3.
the right to vote to the right to choose. I'll keep calling out hate and extremism. Make it clear there is no place,
No,
no
he
place
ain't
in
AI.
America
That's Dwayne
for
Screen
political
with a
violence
clone.
or any violence ever, period. I'm going to keep
That's why the
speaking
trees
out
is glitching.
to
It was
protect
AI.
our
Them
kids from
trees
gun
would have been
violence.
perfect.
Our planet from climate crisis is the existential threat. And I will
Red be
keep fighting
noticing everything.
for my
Somebody's
cancer
fingers ain't
moonshot,
right.
so we can end cancer as we know
Oh
it,
my
because we
God,
can do
Red
it.
crazy.
I'm going to call for Supreme Court reform
Oh my
because
God.
this is critical to our democracy, Supreme Court reform. You know, I will keep working to ensure America remains strong, secure, and the leader of the free world. I'm the first president in this century to report to the American people
I know that's right,
that
Draco.
the United States is not at war anywhere in the
You
world.
need to
I'll
quit
give you a
playing.
ring shot. Where your ring shot?
We'll keep rallying a coalition of proud nations to stop Putin from taking over Ukraine, doing more damage. We'll keep NATO stronger, and I'll make it more powerful and more united than any time in all of our history.
No news
I'll
podcast.
keep doing the same for our allies in the Pacific.
Hey, no.
You know, when I came to office, the conventional wisdom was that China would inevitably surpass the United States. That's not the case anymore. And I'm going to keep working to end the war in Gaza, bring home all the hostages, and bring peace and security to the Middle East and end this war. We're also working around the clock to bring home Americans being unjustly detained all around the world. You know, we've come so far since my inauguration. On that day, I told you, as I stood in that winter, we stood in a winter of peril
What was you say, Joe?
and a winter of possibilities. Peril and possibilities. We were in the grip of the worst pandemic in the century. The worst economic crisis since the Great
Pandemic every
Depression.
5 years or so, sir. We ain't lived
The
through
worst
no
attack on
pandemic
our
until
democracy
now.
since the Civil War.
We'll try this again, sir.
We came together as Americans. We got through it. We emerged stronger, more prosperous, and more secure. Today, we have the strongest economy in the world, creating nearly 16 million new jobs, a record. Wages are up. Inflation continues to come down. The racial wealth gap is the lowest it's been in 20 years. We're literally rebuilding our entire nation, urban, suburban, rural,
That is a
tribal
fucking
communities.
lie.
Manufacturing has come back to America. We're leading the world again in chips and science and innovation. We finally beat Big Pharma after all these years to lower the cost of prescription drugs for seniors. And I'm going to keep fighting to make sure we lower the cost for everyone, not just seniors. More people have health care today in America than ever before. And I signed one of the most significant laws helping millions of veterans and their families who are exposed to toxic materials. You know,
Oh
most
wow,
significant
Mo,
climate
really?
law ever
Right
in
out
the
of
history of the world.
She breaking
The
my
first
heart.
major gun safety law in 30 years. Today, the violent crime rate is at a 50-year low.
No, it ain't.
We're also securing our border. Border crossings are lower today than when the previous administration left office. I've kept my commitment to appoint the first Black woman to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. I also kept my commitment to have an administration that looks like America and be a
Get
president
the
for
mics
all
up, baby. They
Americans.
calling for it now.
That's what I've done. I ran for president 4 years ago
Okay.
because I believed and still do that the soul of America was at stake. The very nature of who we are was at stake. And that's still the case. America's an
You so
idea.
good. Why is
An
it still
idea
the case?
stronger than any army, bigger than any ocean, more powerful than any dictator or tyrant. It's the most powerful idea in the history of the world. That idea is that we hold these truths to be self-evident. We're all created equal, endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We've never fully lived up to it, to this sacred idea, but we've never walked away from it either. And I do not believe the American people will walk away from it now. just a few months, the American people will choose the course of America's future. I made my choice. I've made my views known. I would like to thank our great Vice President Kamala Harris. She's experienced, she's tough, she's capable. She's been an incredible partner to me and a leader for our country. Now the choice is up to you, the American people. When you make that choice, remember the words of Benjamin Franklin hanging on my wall here in the Oval Office, alongside the bust of Dr. King and Rosa Parks and Cesar Chavez. When Ben Franklin was asked, as he emerged from the convention going on, whether the founders have given America a monarchy or republic, Franklin's response was a republic, if you can keep it. A republic, if you can keep it. Whether we keep our republic is now in your hands. My fellow Americans, it's been the privilege of my life to serve this nation for over 50 years. Nowhere else on earth could a kid with a stutter from modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, one day sit behind the resolute desk in the Oval Office as President of the United States. But here I am. That's what's so special about America. We're a nation of promise and possibilities, of dreamers and doers, of ordinary Americans doing extraordinary things. I've given my heart and my soul to our nation, like so many others. I've been blessed a million times in return with the love and support of the American people. I hope you have some idea how grateful I am to all of you. The great thing about America is here, kings and dictators do not rule, the people do. History is in your hands.
What these dictators
The
at?
power is in your hands. The idea of America lies in your hands. You just have to keep faith, keep the faith, and remember who we are. We're the United States of America, and there's simply nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together. So let's act together, preserve our democracy. God bless you all. May God protect our troops. Thank you.
Amanda, I was wrong. It was 3 strokes. It wasn't 5. It was 3. And his dismount was horrible. What do y'all think, man? What y'all think of that?
Joe. Sorry.
I mean, we kind of all got silent like at the same time. We stunned. Like, did I just hear that bullshit again?
Yeah. I mean, that's
like that. Everybody was stunned for a minute.
That's what we got. Like, let's see what ABC talking about. We ain't heard from them.
We gotta get these likes up.
Sprint, and it has changed. I mean, the feeling in that room was palpable. The energy was palpable. The crowd was enthusiastic. They were fired up. There were a lot of women, no surprise here, a lot of Black women, extremely excited at the possibility that now a woman could actually have a shot at being president again. And her tone was different. Like, the vibe is all different on this campaign. It was clear from the moment Kamala Harris took the stage that this is a whole new race. What isn't different, though, is the issues that she's running on. The issues and the policies and the substance of this campaign. What is different, though, is the messenger and certainly the way in which it is being conveyed to the American people, Lindsay.
Mary Bruce from the White House tonight. Our thanks to you, Mary.
Thank you.
Our Chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl joins us now. And John, while much of this certainly was political and about certainly cementing his legacy as president, it also seemed very personal. He talked about how he was that kid with a stutter from Scranton, Pennsylvania, ascending to the Oval Office.
And it was wistful. And we talked about how much he reveres that office. I mean, think about it. This is somebody who spent most of his adult life, and perhaps as a kid too, dreaming of being president of the United States and working to make it happen. And to give it all up. I mean, he's not resigning as
He didn't even
president,
get
but he is
Corn Pop
giving
a
up his
shout out, like, what's up with that?
opportunity to run for re-election. He made it clear that,
What
in
fake
his view,
donations?
that his record merits another 4 years, and that he was making this move because it was in the name of party unity. But you could hear almost the pain and anguish in his voice for having done that, and putting it in the context of portraying it as the ultimate selfless act, making the case the country is much greater than any one man's ambition, which of course it is.
And certainly he talked about how this is an inflection point and how this moment will determine the fate of our nation. I'm curious if you feel that the chatter, particularly from a number of Republicans, as far as him, if he doesn't have the mental acuity to be the nominee, doesn't have the mental acuity to run the country at this time, has that, do you think, is there anything he could have said tonight that might put that to rest?
I don't think there was anything he could have said that will put that to rest. But there's a reality, too, that Republicans have something more immediate that they have to worry about, which is running against Kamala Harris. So you're going to hear that chatter. You will absolutely hear the calls for him to resign as president. But guess what? The House of Representatives has some votes tonight, and then they're gone until September. So we won't have Republican House members making any efforts to do anything about that, at least not for the next month and a half while they are on recess. But you mentioned the inflection point, and I think that was, to me, the line that stood out, maybe above all lines, in that we are at an inflection point, and that the decisions that we make now will affect the course of American history and world history for decades to come, something that is almost certainly true, given how deep the divide is in this election. And when you talk about his legacy, this will either be seen as the ultimate selfless act, or it'll be.
Oh wow, I don't know about her being a call girl.
Much earlier. It'll depend on whether or not
she was just
Kamala
running
Harris
around
wins in
fucking
November.
California
If
like
Kamala
she
Harris
was
wins in November,
trying to get
Joe Biden will be
the
remembered
bookie,
as
trying to land a rich,
to some degree
famous
as
man.
the statesman that gave it all up in the
Shout
name
out
of
to
the
Montel
country,
Williams.
in the name of the unity of his party. If they lose, the question will be asked: why did he run again, and why did he take so long to make this decision to get out of the race?
And just lastly, we also heard from him with regard to the 6 months ahead, the things that he's still committed to, among them revamping the Supreme Court, that cancer moonshot, strengthening NATO. How does he accomplish anything else that remains on his agenda, as far as he's talked about finishing
the lights up, y'all.
when he has a House that's
No news where we at with the
Republican-controlled,
lights
and
now.
many are going to largely view him now as a lame duck president?
And in the Middle East, he very much wants to get to a ceasefire agreement, release of the hostages in the Middle East. He's got a very busy agenda for the next 6 months. Some of that can be accomplished regardless of what is happening in Congress. He can play his role as a world leader, but he's a world leader who has now told the world
Kamala Harris, her
essentially
legal
unable
problems ain't even
to
began
continue
yet.
a presidential
We can
campaign,
start digging
and he
into
will
fanny
be,
shit
looked
heavy
at as a
after the
diminished
cases get
president
dismissed.
as a result.
Watch it all
So
come back to
it's a good
Kamala.
question, and Kamala
Watch.
Harris is going to be out on the campaign
Her and
trail.
American Power.
These are his decisions, not hers.
Jonathan Karl,
Cash
thanks
Money
to you as
G.
always.
Willis.
Thank you.
Joining us now for more is Minnesota Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar. Senator, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Well, but
You've
she's
known
trying to get a
President Joe
VP
Biden
spot,
for
so
some
let's see
time,
what she's
briefly
talking about.
serving with him in
She
the
on the
Senate
list.
as well. One can only imagine just how difficult this decision must have been
Cheers.
for
How's
him.
it,
Joe
folks?
Biden saying tonight that the best way
Howdy,
forward is to
cheers.
pass the torch
Hey,
to a
Troy,
new
how
generation.
are you?
What did you make of his speech?
I thought it was a beautiful speech. I
Red
think
Zone's
to me,
already
it reminded
cried.
me of when he came into the
Stay
office.
quiet.
He
Stop
came into
crying.
the office as someone who said he was going to save our democracy, and he did. He beat Donald Trump. He was there on the inaugural stage, and he talking about the soul of America and bringing people together. He didn't accomplish that entirely, but boy, he saved our democracy, and he
How
put
the
that
top
out
vote?
How
as
the
a
hell did he
challenge
save the
to the
democracy?
American people tonight when he quoted Benjamin Franklin and said, "It's a republic if you can keep it." I also am someone that loved that he talked about passing the torch. As a young senator, I remember one of my first speeches on domestic violence. I was in the chamber late at night, and no one was in there. I think the pages were falling asleep. And I walked out and my phone rang and I thought, is it my mom? Then I thought, no, my mom didn't even stay up to watch this. And it was Joe Biden. He, at the time, had just gotten out of the presidential race, and he took the time as a senator to call me, and he said, hey, kid, that was a great speech. And when Kamala went to Delaware, he kind of said the same thing. He said, you got this, kid. You know, that was him. That was him tonight. And I couldn't been more proud of his decision. He took the honorable path.
Were you surprised by his decision?
I was not. I think this was mounting. As Jeff, who you just talked to, I think he was well aware of what was going on, a lot of discussions. And he ultimately decided that this was best for our democracy. And I just think he did it with grace. And he didn't waste time. He endorsed Kamala Harris right away, meeting with my Republican colleagues today and talking to a number of them that run the gamut ideologically. I think they have been really shocked at how quickly she consolidated her support, how quickly people came together and endorsed her. The joy that's out there right now of young people
no
that
news,
say,
that's
hey,
not really
now
correct,
generational
sir.
change, I'm ready for this.
Yeah, be fair
Those were a
now.
lot of the people that
There
were
was
hanging
no
on the
black
sidelines, not yet ready
invited
to accept this candidacy.
didn't bring white
Understandably,
people
having
there.
gone
White
through the
people more
pandemic,
invited than ever,
she's going to
so,
be able to make the case
yeah.
for them. So while this is about beating Donald Trump and the negativity
There
that
is
he
no
brings, the
black community. Black
divisiveness that he
community
brings,
dies
the
at meetings right now.
breaching of our freedoms, what happened with Roe v. Wade, it is also about what she is going to bring to the table. And that
Danny,
is what
brother.
I'm excited to see unfold in these next few weeks.
And
Second
tonight,
in
Biden called
chat.
Kamala Harris experienced, tough, and
appreciate
capable. You served with her in the Senate as well. How would you describe her?
She is someone that I always think about her posture. She is very, very stands straight and keeps her shoulders high. She is
Y'all
someone
know
that
who's
just
like
doesn't let the criticism
April
get to her. She has a
bet
mission and she completes it. I watched her dismantle those Supreme Court justice nominees to show their true colors, which ended up being exactly right. So you're going to see on one side of a debate stage, if he is willing to debate her, you're going to see her making the case on what happened with those justices. And you're going to see him, who just did a video this year that said he was proud to be the person who overturned Roe v. Wade. Those are his words, not my words.
Yeah,
You're
man,
going to
good
see her
point, but
as a former
it's deeper than
prosecutor
that. Nobody voted
make
for
the
Joe
case
either.
for the rule of law. And on the other
They
side of
threw
the
Joe
stage
on
will
it.
be someone that has
We
racked up
didn't
over
elect
100
as a
felony
Democratic
indictments
candidate. They
and
forced
a number of convictions as
first
well.
time
So I think
ever.
you're going to see a very strong contrast. But sometimes
Democrats
what gets
always,
missed
to
here
win a
is
Democratic
there's a joy
nomination,
about
you
Kamala
have
Harris.
to win one of the
I
first
ran
three
against her.
primaries.
We became better friends
Weed
as
out.
the election went on. I've
And
seen
then
her
Kamala
and
was at the
Doug
bottom of
together.
the
My
list.
husband and I have hung out with them.
Everyone.
And I think you're just going to see someone who also has a joy about her that I think we need in our politics right now.
And what types of qualities do you think that she should be looking for as she tries to choose a vice presidential candidate, especially on an expedited timeline?
Sure. So I think number one, someone she can trust. Number two, someone that can just step in and govern. And number three, someone who augments her skills. It is speed dating. That is true. She is not going to be on the timeline of other people, but all of the candidates that I've seen on the list of the top ones have been vetted by voters. They've been vetted in tough races. I am not as concerned about that. Because of who she's looking at, the quality of who she's looking at. And then finally, she knows them. She knows every single one of them. So it's not going to be like, hey, I've never met you before. Do you want to be my running mate? That's not what this scenario is going to be like.
Comments that were made by former President Gerald Ford in 1989 have recently resurfaced. And Ford was asked by a young schoolgirl what advice he'd give to a young lady who wanted to become president. And he said, it won't happen in the normal course of events. He thought that it would take an event like a president dying for a woman to become president. And I'm just curious, 35 years later, what you make of that response.
Well, I think I was the one on the debate stage at one point who said, if it was easy for a woman to become president, we could play a game called name your favorite woman president. And not only could we not play that game until Kamala came in, we couldn't even play the game of name your favorite woman vice president. So we know this has been tough. Women have been held to different standards. After that race was over, there were some people looked at social media and they saw the kind of criticisms that were lodged at the women candidates compared to the male candidates, really getting at looks, really getting at, in a way that none of the men had to deal with, getting at if someone, they loved it when they could say you were dumb. They loved it when they could say you were too tough. Those were the kinds of things that went viral. So one of the good things for Kamala right now is that we've been through this before with Trump and how he handled what he said about Hillary Clinton. Everyone knows what went on there. What happened to her in her past races. We're pretty attuned to this. And I think it's not just Kamala that will be defending herself. There will be an entire brigade of people that are ready to either call it out, laugh at it, embrace it, or most importantly, ignore it. Because the cause, as the president laid out in his beautiful words today, the cause of defending democracy is larger than yourself. That is the deal, larger than any personal ambition, as he so beautifully pointed out, and certainly larger than any one person.
Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, we thank you so much for joining us tonight.
It's great to be on. Thank you.
Tonight was certainly a personal moment for the president as he's laid out his remarks just back after a COVID diagnosis.
All right, let's see about this clip. Hold on.
Yeah. I was curious about that too.
No, it ain't gonna let me do it. It ain't gonna let me do it.
Just days from deciding to step aside from the 2024 race. Here's a bit of what he had to say.
I revere this office, but I love my country more. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. But in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think it's more important than any title. I draw strength and I find joy in working for the American people. But this sacred task, perfecting our union, it's not about me, it's about you.
Our Chief Global Affairs anchor, Martha Raddatz, joins us now. Martha, the president left time in his speech to say which accomplishments abroad in particular made him proud. Tell us about that.
Well, I think certainly he talked a lot about Ukraine, and we go back and we remember those early days, and the administration talked so much about what was about to come, and that was a big decision within the administration, within the national security apparatus. They had intelligence showing Russia was going to those borders, and they wanted to convince people that this was going to happen, and that helped, and the president certainly talked about that tonight, bring NATO together. And the president has really helped reunite NATO in ways that it started to kind of fall apart in the previous administration, because they were clear that if you want to be protected, you have to pay more. Didn't really fall apart, but it really started to mistrust in many ways whether this alliance could survive, whether they would continue to get the support. And I think they're in that way now, and very much watching the presidential race. But President Biden is very proud of helping to reunite NATO and face up to the threat from Russia and be tough on Russia and side with the Ukrainians in not backing down. Now, where that goes in the next six months, Lindsay, is another question altogether. I mean, does Putin become bolder because President Biden now is essentially a lame duck president? And I think that's, in a way, a very vulnerable time for the nation. I mean, he clearly doubled down on that tonight, that his attention would be focused on his job as president. But it is a time when the adversaries can look at the United States in a way they weren't a week ago.
All right, Martha Raddatz, our thanks to you. And now I want to bring in former DNC chair and ABC News contributor Donna Brazile, who of course knows Joe Biden very well. Donna, your reaction to President Biden's address to the nation.
I thought it was very heartfelt. 11 minutes. It was short, but it was so impactful. What he told the nation was his love of his country, his desire to complete his job, his determination to see a new generation with new voices and new faces to rise. He stepped back so that those who believe in freedom can step forward. He stepped back so that we can see the bridge that we've been trying to cross over. He stepped back so that the 21 million Americans who got health insurance, the 15.7 million Americans who found jobs after COVID, he stepped back so that we can continue that progress. I know there will be people out there in the country that just will never understand Joe Biden, why he ran in the first place and why he decided to step down after 3 weeks and 3 days of taking on, criticism from his friends, from people inside his tent, his party. It's been a very deep and very troubling time. But the faith that he has, not just in a higher being, but the faith he has in us, the American people, that came through, Lindsay, in those 11 minutes. So I've already sent my congratulations, Mr. President. We still love you. We still have your back. You still got a lot of work to do. So don't go get some chocolate chip ice cream. Don't go get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, Mr. President. Mr. President, continue to fight. You're not finished the work. Lindsay, this whole thing about passing the torch, from the Greek literature, it's the runners. But Moses had 40 years and he had to pass the torch. I am so proud of Joe Biden, because not many men in my life have given up power, let alone give up their power and their war chest to a woman. But over the last 3.5 years, this much I know, and I tell everybody, Kamala Harris is a proven leader. She's ready. She's not ready just because of her education. She's not ready because she was a DA in California, AG in California, United States Senator, but she has been a governing partner with Joe Biden for the last 3.5 years. She has traveled to over 20 countries. She knows over 150 leaders. You can't get that experience while just running your mouth. You get it by putting in the work. She has receipts, and I'm proud, so very proud of the Biden family. They took this with grace. They never once expressed horror, a grievance. They're like,
she gets a piece of it, Troy, but not the whole
I'm so
thing.
grateful. I'm so grateful to Joe Biden and his leadership.
I think they said
there was a moment tonight where President Biden asked the critical question, does character in public life still matter? And also referred to as humble beginnings. Let's take a listen.
My fellow Americans, it's been the privilege of my life to serve this nation for over 50 years. Nowhere else on earth could a kid with a stutter, from modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Claymont, Delaware, one day sit behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office as President of the United States. But here I am.
I ask you in particular what you made of that question about does character in public life still matter?
It matters a great deal. Remember when Joe Biden entered the national
It depends on who you are, whether
he lost his wife,
important.
a child. 2 of his sons had deep injuries. He had to put his life back. He suffered an aneurysm. He had to put his life back. He's had so many setbacks, but it never stopped him from making the American dream available to each and every one of us.
Now, the dream is not available to me. Listen, hold on, y'all. I'm about to get this.
Can somebody find that one person in the government who's really doing their job well? I want to meet that person. Like, whatever their job is, they killing it. I want to know who that is. I think it was Ben Carson. We ain't heard shit from Ben Carson. Ben Carson.
We saw Ben last week at the RNC.
No, I'm just saying he did his job. We ain't hear no problems.
Oh yeah. With no problems. No, that's why he came on up and said, "Hey, listen, this situation at hand. This what I need y'all to do." And then he went on back to where he was doing before.
And where the hell is Cory Booker at? He ain't been saving no cats out of trees.
Last we heard from Cory, he was telling Joe to step down. That's all.
He ain't ran up in no burning buildings lately.
Nah,
that dude wants to be a superhero. I don't even know why he a politician.
But hell, if he can't be no superhero, he couldn't even hold on to his damn woman. How the hell how you with Rosario Dawson and now she on some damn, she done quit messing with him and now she on some some non-gender. What's that shit called? Where ain't nobody got no
want the
gender?
answer to that question?
Huh?
You ever see Top 5 with Chris Rock?
Pieces of it.
Well, she had a boyfriend in the movie that preferred her finger to his thing.
Oh,
Get what I'm
hell.
saying?
Yep.
I think that was foretelling.
Shower. He done
I
turned her
think, even
off.
though it was a white guy in the movie, I think that was Cory Booker. She
Oh,
was
child,
talking.
he done turned her off to where she don't even want no man.
Yeah, she like, fuck
That's
it.
a
Man.
crying shame. That's all
She
I'm
like,
gonna
I'm
say.
done, my pretty ass.
All right, y'all, hold up. We're gonna see about this clip. Oh wait, this the whole
data
video.
show.
I guess we're gonna watch the whole video. Ain't nothing else going on, so here you go.
Shows that some senior citizens across the U.S. have been donating thousands of times per year. Some of these individuals' names and addresses are attached to over $200,000 in contributions. We went and knocked on a few of their doors to corroborate the data that we received from a group of citizen journalists called Election Watch in Maryland. This is James O'Keefe with OMG. I'm here in Annapolis, Maryland. It's an individual who has donated a total of $217,000 made through 12,000 different contributions in a 3-year period of time. Now, sometimes these contributions have been made in variations of his name and variations of his address. You see this chart here. This chart shows a breakdown of the committees that were earmarked to receive the donations made through Act Blue. And this is all FEC and state data. We're wondering if these donors are victims of what appears to be a money laundering scheme, or these residents actually participated in the scheme, or making phone calls, or knocking on doors. These are things that you can do. We hope you do that. Follow me along and see what happens. This is something you guys can do.
Hit the like button.
Very easy to do. A lot of homes with bizarre amounts of data showing tens of thousands of contributions made through different contributors here. So a lot of questions, and we hope the Citizen Journalism Army at OMG can answer them. This is an easy thing to do. Knocking on doors, asking questions. Get yourself a little microphone, get yourself a camera. You can use an iPhone. What we're going to do as citizen reporters is go back to the car and call them, right? We're going to call them. Get a few numbers to call. Contributed 3,000 contributions.
Wow.
Over $32,000.
Since the 70s.
That you donated $32,000, 3,000 different contributions people made at this address in your name. Are you aware of that happening? You're not aware of that happening?
Talk to Donald Trump.
Talk to Donald Trump? Well, how would Donald Trump help me answer that question?
Hit him with a bat.
Hit Donald Trump with a bat?
Yeah. Right over the head.
How would that help me answer this question?
It will certainly get you in the news.
To do with
I want to see a scar on his fucking head. Now stop fucking with me.
Whoa. Cindy No of Annapolis, Maryland. Who
First of all,
2022.
He didn't even say anything about being a Trump supporter at all. That goes to show you how heavy the TDS is. He didn't say anything about being a Trump supporter at all. And then he, said that he was excited at the thought of violence being struck to Donald Trump's head. We all know what happened with the near, but yeah, wow. It's amazing that he was there to show him like, yo, you're being taken advantage of by the people that he didn't even know it was going to go this route, but you're being taken advantage of by the people you're seemingly siding with.
Who allegedly contributed over 1,000 times to Act Blue, totaling $18,849.77. That means Cindy would have had to donate 3 times a day, every day for the whole year. Hello? Hey there, Cindy. My name's James O'Keefe, and we're doing a story on the number of people that have donated with your address. Did you donate to Act Blue, a political cause? How many times a month do you donate to Act Blue?
I don't know. I don't know how many times. I don't understand why
why I'm getting this.
Well, the question is, you did donate to ActBlue, right?
Yes, once in a while, yes.
Did you donate 1,009 times?
I don't know. I mean, I made once in a while I donate $5 or so dollars or something like that during election year.
What about $18,850?
I doubt that.
Not that many donations.
No, I don't think so.
What the Federal Election Commission indicates that much money was donated to ActBlue and Biden for president.
I wish I could have donated $18,000 to Biden's presidency.
How much did you donate?
I don't know. I don't
Order
know.
of magnitude.
I like I said, I donate $5 once in a while because I have various charities I like to give to.
You know people are using your address?
I don't think so.
Bitch, what I just tell you? What I just
Interestingly enough, she said she donates something like $5 a month. But we're getting kind of a pattern of reactions here as we do this. The woman was a very nice lady. She talked to us. So interestingly enough, it's even a two-party consent state like Maryland, with the camera out in the open, people are still being honest. This is sort of new to me. Usually we use the covert cameras, but maybe the camera's a truth serum.
But does it sound about right? There's been 18,000 contributions
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
in the amount of like $170,000.
Absolutely not.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. So that's not you doing that?
No, it's not.
But does the frequency ring a bell that you're donating that much every 10 times a day sometimes?
No.
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 Do you think someone is maybe fraudulently debiting your accounts or something?
They must be. ActBlue is the one I use for political donations. And I do not make that kind of political donations.
Right. So right here, it's 18,672 different contributions that total an amount of $170,000.221.
No.
So I'm about to call Garland Riggs. He's the excessive small amount donor. 31,073 individual contributions were made.
We're going to let this last situation pan out. We're going to stop here. I don't want to let the whole video go, but make sure y'all follow O'Keefe Media Group.
Under his address, he's 80 years old. He lives on the outskirts of D.C. So many people across the country, I'm going to call him and see if I can make a contribution in his name and see how he responds. He's either a victim of some type of conspiracy or he's a culprit himself. A lot of these phone numbers are available on white pages on Google and other apps where you can find people's phone numbers and information. Hey there, Mr. Riggs.
Yes.
James O'Keefe, just asking about those contributions we spoke on the phone. Have you donated to ActBlue in the past?
I don't believe so.
You're listed as someone who's given over 31,000 individual contributions to various causes for a total of $230,000 using your name in this address.
No, that's not us.
That's not you?
No.
Have you ever donated to ActBlue? Or
I think my wife has, but nowhere near it.
are you aware that people are using your name?
No,
Have you donated to ActBlue in the past?
I don't believe so.
You're listed as someone who's given over 31,000 individual contributions to various causes for a total of $230,000 using your name in this address. How much did you donate to ActBlue?
So would you say 1,000 a year?
Probably not.
Not 1,000?
I'm not sure.
Would the FEC records say that you've given $230,000?
No.
It appears that someone else may be committing a crime using your address. I'll email you that information, the FEC records.
And do you think you can find at least some of these individuals?
That's what I do, sir.
Wow. So when you get to the root of it all, this is how Kamala Harris raised all that money in a day. Waiting for the backlash from Kamala fundraising scandal. I'm reading comments right now. There's literally no way we can trust the results of this election unless it is a clear landslide. If it's even a little close, I hate to think about what happens to this country. I wonder how many donations were funded through illegal alien identities. This is 100% correct. The Dems are doing money laundering under unsuspecting citizens. The Democrat Party is funded by fraud. Wow, y'all. Y'all see this? Wow. How many identities did these Democrats steal?
Tonight, breaking news on President Biden's health. The president diagnosed with COVID just before addressing a major Latino voter event in a key swing state.
All right, y'all. Foolishness. Straight.
You seen the same thing play out on Breaking Bad. I don't know how many people watched Breaking Bad, but when Walt was trying to hustle his drug money, he had his lawyers set it up where people was making fake ass donations. Basically, they was just like hijacking other computers. It was a hacker doing it. So they would send a hacker the real money, and he would make it seem like the money was coming from individuals donating or PayPaling to him. Shout out to Walt Heisenberg in the mug. Same scam.
Oh, wait.
Same scam.
Damn, Candace be going hard. Oh. There really ain't too much more going on.
Look how much y'all done learned over here today. Amanda done learned about Bush phones. Y'all learned about the fraud. They done stole from Breaking Bad. Y'all learning all kind of good stuff over here today.
Hey, that's why we here. That's why we here. For the info. Trying to see what else going on.
She gonna tell Biden, no, don't eat your chocolate chip ice cream, bitch. He ain't eating ice cream. They got him one in Shores.
Eat that shit. You better eat that shit. All right, let's see what else they talking about.
Hurled at the vice president. We also heard from Hillary Clinton. She wrote an op-ed saying that she knows a thing or two about what it's like to be a woman in American politics and to face the double standards and the sexism. But she said that Vice President Harris is going to face even additional challenges because she is the first Black woman. She is the first South Asian woman to be at the top of a party's ticket. But what's interesting here is that House Speaker Mike Johnson told Republicans we're learning to stop these attacks and that instead they should focus on Vice President Harris's record and her policies, Lindsay.
All right, Selena.
Well,
Wang,
when we find out what
those are, we might be able
so
to
much
do
more
that.
ahead on President Biden's address. Stay with us.
And that's that no accountability shit. Hillary talked about she was a victim. No, you was a victim because you sucked as a wife and your husband got caught in the head. That's why we didn't like you. You had one job to do.
Yeah,
one job. Your husband, the president, and he that sex starved. I mean, really.
Fuck with the intern. You right.
Think about that.
Yeah, that's bad business. That's bad business, y'all. Bad business.
I mean, somebody just made a comment about the race card and Semitic or whatever. I don't know what you're talking about. When did anybody say any of that?
Oh, you talking about you saying what he was talking about? You're saying she know what it is to be a woman with the sexism and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, that ain't race and anti-Semitic.
No, he's saying those are other things that they use.
I understand what you're saying, but that's not what he said.
It just wasn't all in the same post, but that's basically what he was alluding to.
My point is, we got to stop trying to like use a window to slip issues in that we like to talk about in to conversations.
He was saying it's all bad business because soon he said some of them use sexism, some of them use race, some of them use that anti-Semitic. You know what I'm saying? When they ain't got shit else to talk about. Instead
Well,
of
only people who use anti-Semitic is the little hats. And right now, lately, it's really been black women calling everything
well,
racial.
I mean, they get their way, so they ain't got shit to complain about. But basically, yeah, as soon as they ain't getting their damn way, they ain't that break out with that shit. He right.
No,
It's a tough sell that this decision was about democracy when the Democrats just trampled on the will of 14 million primary voters who selected Joe Biden to be their nominee. For more reaction on President Biden's speech tonight, let's bring in ABC's Jay O'Brien.
Lindsay like shit. Can I get a damn day off?
President Biden said tonight that he's ready to focus on his job as president and he'll continue giving his heart and soul to the nation. Do you think he was able to say enough to restore confidence in those who expressed doubt?
It doesn't look likely, Lindsay, that he's going to change any of those House Republicans' minds who have called for him to resign, saying that if he can't run for re-election, he shouldn't continue on as president. Tom Emmer is one of those. House Speaker Mike Johnson is another one. We caught up just moments ago with two members of the House, Tim Burchett, a Republican, Jared Moskowitz, a Democrat. We ran into them just minutes ago, right after the president's remarks were finished, and we got their reaction, particularly on that idea of should President Biden resign. Here's what they told us.
Do you think this is going to calm any calls for him to resign? Because Kamala Harris is now in.
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to matter. I think he'll just.
You don't really care if he resigns or not?
Well, I think we're in trouble.
What was your reaction to Biden's address? Did you watch it?
So I watched it. So he doesn't look or sound as good as he used to, but I'll tell you this. I think it was one of his best speeches. I think it'll be one of his most memorable speeches. And it was extremely moving.
Moskowitz went on to say something that we've heard from a lot of Democrats, which is framing President Biden's decision not as one about fitness for office, but as one about ability to win in November, saying that Biden made the calculation that he can't win in November, that he might not have the ability to campaign the way he needs to campaign, and that's why he made this call. We also heard tonight from former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who was one of, sources tell us, those top Democrats who were trying to push President Biden to recognize, in their view, that he couldn't win in November. She said in a statement tonight, quote, "Tonight we saw President Joe Biden, one of America's most consequential presidents, show that he is not only on the right side of history, but on the right side of the future." Lindsay.
Arguments.
Jay O'Brien from the Rotunda there on Capitol Hill. Thanks so much, Jay.
But it ain't even
Immigration,
a black
obviously a
card
major
no
issue
more.
for
It's
voters
sisterhood
across our
card.
country, especially with border security. I want to get in, bring in ABC's Maria Villarreal, who's at the border for us. And Maria, what exactly does polling show about the topic of immigration?
If the Secret Service
Lindsay, that's
lady had
exactly
quit,
right.
she was
New
about to
ABC
use
polling does show that immigration is a top
playbook.
priority for Americans in our country. People we speak with tell us this is important to them because when they see apprehension numbers up and resources strained at the border, it makes them feel like this border chaos is actually creating vulnerability in our country.
Right now, y'all.
The Biden
Somebody give me the
administration,
numbers.
as you know, has
We may
talked
have to
about coming to
pause
a
everything and
compromise
get our
on
lights
a
up.
border security deal. That was supposed to happen months ago, but it was
Yeah, y'all all
torpedoed
this
when
good
Trump said,
content,
listen,
man, and
take
y'all-
this off the table.
treat us
I
like
want to run
rape.
on this
And we-
issue. And that's exactly what we have seen him do after or during the June debate, but also at the Republican National Convention as well, just last week, as you heard him talk about. We also heard a number of other people that were speaking at the RNC try and capitalize on immigration fears, talking about how the chaos along the border led to a rise in crime in our country and also to fentanyl deaths. But let's just be very clear. The facts do not support that narrative. There is no evidence that points to a major surge in crime caused by recent arrivals. And additionally, while we do have issues with fentanyl in our country and fentanyl deaths, right now we know that cartels bring this drug into our country through big rigs and vehicles, not on the backs of migrants. We also want to point out that right now apprehension numbers continue to decrease in our country, especially over the last few months. I spoke to one agent out of the Eagle Pass area just this morning who says we are doing our jobs. It is manageable, but to be quite honest, right now, it is actually pretty quiet. Listen, this administration hasn't out.
Okay, hold on real quick, y'all. Okay, so yeah, if you are focusing your numbers on the border, of course those numbers are gonna be down because your dumb ass is sending planes and shit to go get the damn people. They're not coming over through the water. They're coming in the air. So ain't nothing stopping them from, you know what I'm saying? You got the immigrants, you know what I'm saying, in the cabin, and the damn dope under the bottom of the plane. Let's cut the bullshit.
Didn't Franklin show us that on Snowfall?
This what I'm saying. Cut that dumb shit. That's Tom Cruise and American Made all damn day long.
Right. That was what? That was what?
It was the story of Barry Seal.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of that movie. Shit, I love that
American
movie
Made.
too. No, it wasn't Tom Cruise. It was Johnny Depp, wasn't
it? Johnny Depp.
What was the one? He was the cocaine smuggler.
Cocaine.
That was using a plane too.
That must be a different one, but no, this one I'm talking about is Tom Cruise. He did Barry Seal. This shit called American Made. He was working for the CIA and he was bringing that shit over here for Noriega, all at the same damn time.
Yeah, well, the movie I'm thinking, damn it, it's on the tip of my tongue. It was Johnny Depp.
Yeah, y'all playing games. So yeah, you were talking about ain't no shit coming through the border because they're in the air.
And his mama snitched on him in the movie.
Oh no, I don't know about that. That's crazy. I'm gonna have to find it.
One event in Nevada.
Yeah, I'll tell you when it comes to my head.
They kept chanting the words,
Somebody
"Dude,
in the
gotta
chat,
go,"
man,
and she was so thrilled about that, and they were just so
he was
pumped
selling weed in
and energetic,
California
and there
when
was
he
a
first went out
feeling, there was
there.
a sense that maybe she could
Blow.
cross the
Okay,
finish
it's
line and
called
actually
Blow.
become the nominee in that moment.
Yeah, Blow.
Zareen Shah, our thanks to you
Thank
as
you. Who
always.
said that, man?
Joining us now is
Thank you.
presidential historian Mark Updegrove. Mark, thanks so much for joining us. You no doubt have seen and read about presidents giving similar addresses months before the end of their terms. How does this one measure up?
Get y'all a wins. Come on over
I think
to
it's a
People's
good
Podcast. I'll give
speech,
you a
Lindsay. It was a
ring.
very good speech. And no surprise,
wins for that.
Joe Biden came back time and time again to the issue of democracy. That's why he went into this race to begin with. And one thing stuck out to me at the end of the speech,
All them
Lindsay, when
damn
he said,
stories they was
history
using
is
the plane
in your
and shit.
hands. Let's act together to preserve our democracy. And I think President Biden, by getting into the race in 2020, was intent on bending the currents of history, taking back the White House in order to preserve democracy from Donald Trump, who he considered and many Americans considered to be an existential threat. That was a defining moment, wresting the White House from Donald Trump. I think the other defining moment for his presidency will be stepping aside and passing the torch to Kamala Harris, who stands a better chance of staving off another threat from Donald Trump against all odds, a resurgent Donald Trump to once again win the White House. So two defining moments bookending the Biden
Red. What the hell wrong with
presidency,
this channel?
Lindsay.
And Biden was obviously trying to cement how historians will view his presidency. Do you think that he was able to succeed in selling it?
I think in some ways, yes, because
That
he
ain't passing the torch,
fulfilled
he
the
old.
promise of restoring our democracy by preserving and protecting and strengthening our democracy by bringing us back to
6 years from
democratic
retirement.
norms and values and traditions. You also mentioned, or Martha Raddatz early in the broadcast, that he
Jill is
revived
good.
a
We're gonna
very
pass it hell.
weakened
I feel better
NATO
you
around
said
the
that
defense
shit about
of
Jill.
Ukraine
Nah,
against Russian aggression. Two very
Damn, she got more
significant
by
accomplishments in
vitality
restoring
than
and
both of them
preserving our
motherfuckers. I ain't
democracy.
with it.
But again, I think he realized that he
ain't
wasn't
with
the one to continue this fight. So his
I mean, I knew she was getting up there. I mean,
legacy,
shit,
Lindsay,
she was
is very
dating
much in the
Montel back in
balance
the day.
as, again,
You know what I mean?
he hands off the torch to Kamala Harris to stave
I
off
bet
another
Jill glad
potential
this
threat
is gonna be
from
over.
Donald Trump.
And the fact that the president has
Like,
6
I'm
months
glad you
still
got that at
remaining
your
in his
system.
term,
You
is
know
that
about
much time
something
for
else
him to
now, fam.
affect
She
his
was a
legacy
old
and for it to change?
Damn.
I think he has
Yeah,
to do
she down
everything he
59.
can to round out the administration in a noble and admirable way. Lame duck presidents can't accomplish a great deal, Lindsay, as you know, having watched lame duck presidents through the years. But I think he has to do everything he can to help his heir apparent, Kamala Harris, to win the office in the fall. But the other thing he's going to have to do is show America that he is able to continue to lead, given the fact that he said that stamina is an issue. That's why he's not running again. That's why his party has asked him to step aside. So he has to continue to show the vigor, the energy, the vision to continue in the role of our president and commander in chief.
Presidential historian Mark Updegrove, we thank you so much as always. And as Mark just laid out for us, democracy and the fight over the republic was a key part of President Biden's speech tonight. Joining us now in studio is Biden biographer Chris Whipple, author of The Fight for His Life. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.
So we saw there just a little short time ago when Joe Biden sat down with George Stephanopoulos, and he said essentially it was going to take an act of God in order for him.
We just saying we know about the biographer. You ain't finna tell us none of Joe's secrets. We don't want to hear. Shit.
Hey, I'm sorry, man. You know, we did invite Trump to come by, join us on the podcast, but he had to catch a plane.
Yeah, so he got to that in record time. Literally. Like, shoot, I wish I could do that.
He don't drink, he don't smoke, so we couldn't bribe him with nothing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, we gonna get into we might have to, I don't know. It probably won't be tomorrow. Probably Friday into we're gonna review Kamala's speech to the Zetas. We're gonna see how that works. You know, the see if the Zetas was receptive to what the AKA had to say. Trying to see how times now.
Is environmentally, they stop it with the environment. You know, the environment is
earlier today.
And I appreciate that with that link. We appreciate that information.
Yeah, that was good info. Good info, definitely. Definitely good looking out.
It's not a gift. I mean, you know, say less.
Child, this is too much. It's too much. It's too much. Yo, it's that Passage of Time. That who told us to watch that? Was that V Smiles TV? Yeah, that was pitiful. That was pitiful. Hold on, let me see if I can find that real quick. Because it was just too much. Nope, hold on. Too much, too much. This is what they want y'all to vote for. This is what Joe got every confidence.
Every time you see Kamala Harris speak, you wonder, can things get worse? The answer continues to be yes. She seems totally out of depth in almost every other issue, especially when she has to ad lib and talk from the heart or extemporaneously about the issues she should have thoroughly digested. This on the heels of news that she lost her 10th staffer who thought, there's got to be something better for me to do.
Yeah, the 10th staffer quit Kamala's office. She's the latest to resign. She was her national secretary advisor. You can see there on the screen all the people that have quit over the last, it's been a little bit more than a year since she became our vice president. This lady's name is Nancy McEldowney, and she will be replaced by her deputy. Said she had to step down to focus on some pressing personal matters.
Yeah, we don't know exactly what that is, but, you know, with the latest Harris staff shakeup, there have been these well-publicized stories in the Washington Post and Politico about how hard she is to work for. Brian, you alluded to, you know, what's she talking about? This particular woman who just left, who is going to be replaced by her deputy, she was the woman who went with her as her national security advisor when she was down in Central America.
Yeah, I wouldn't be bothered.
And she was talking to Lester Holt, and Lester, she's saying, you know, we've been to the border, and Lester Holt said, you haven't been to the border. And then she said inexplicably, well, I haven't been to Europe either. You know, it's not uncommon for a staff member to leave after the first year, but given the fact that there are so many and she's gotten so much bad publicity, and one of the things that is not helping her is when she actually says things that people start scratching their head over. Here she is yesterday in Sunset, Louisiana, talking about the significance of the passage of time. See if you can follow this logic.
The governor and I, and we were all doing a tour of the library here and talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs. And there is such great significance to the passage of time when we think about a day in the life of our children.
Somebody should come up with a drinking game where every time she says passage of time, you take a shot.
Right.
I think there were 4 or 5 passages of time.
Reminds me of, we'll circle back on that. Jim Psaki.
There's a lot of circling back.
Evidently, there's a book coming out that talks about the friction between the vice president and the president, especially their office. One thing they talk about is how unorganized it is, not unlike her Senate office. There was high expectations when she was appointed senator and then won election, and evidently she was never organized, never got herself together with a message, and she's brought that magic to the vice president's office.
Maybe she needs a teleprompter.
Right.
Well, we
damn, y'all. All right, y'all. Yeah, try to passage of time. Passage of time, child. That's, yeah. We can't hear you, V. That passage of time, honey. They be doing it every time. So yeah, this is who we gonna Joe wants to convince you to entrust with representing the United States of America. I'm gonna leave it at that. Yeah. Put your trust.
She ran her office horribly because she's not a manager. She's not a leader. The same thing with all of these DEI hires. They all have that character trait. Fanny or Fani, since we're going to pronounce it against phonetics. Fani, same thing. And last one of these DEI hires, they have that character. Def No listening right now. He mumbling to himself, but that ass though.
Yeah, part.
Shout out to Def Note. Now y'all do down there in Atlanta. Y'all, you know how y'all do.
That part.
But the ass though. Talk to me, Chad. Y'all love Harmonize, right? Can I get a thumbs up in the chat?
Passage of time is a burden we've been unburdened from. Listen. Hello, protesters just vandalized the Liberty Bell. Hold on, let me see.
Somebody talking about they want to fast forward to November. No, the fuck I don't.
That was Amanda. Hold on.
I don't want to miss none of this clusterfuck that's about to happen. I want to get all of this. I need to watch out with shit. Make sure y'all subscribe to the People's Podcast.
Thank you, April and Chris. I appreciate it.
As well as over here on Harmonize 78.
Seeing nothing about the Liberty Bell.
I'm gonna cover something tomorrow, y'all. Actually, I'll probably give y'all a traditional show tomorrow during the day. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I got a couple of topics, you know. Y'all know I keep them in a little fishbowl like Dave Chappelle. I'll pull one out the bowl for y'all tomorrow.
Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. Hold on. So they burned the flag and raised the. Where is this taking place? Where is this happening?
I think he was speaking metaphorically.
Maybe. Hold on. There wasn't some good protesting.
Oh, he said in. Red said in DC. They're protesting.
Said what?
Netanyahu. Yahoo was in D.C. today making the speech.
Oh yeah. Cause
Thank you,
ain't
Black.
that what she should have been? Instead over there with them Zetas?
Thank you, Red, for clearing that up.
So much you want to be somebody? You want to be somebody president? Should she have been over there?
I ain't missing none of this, Amanda, for the next few months. I got the popcorn on deck. I got chips and dip on deck. You crazy, girl. We gonna get all this work.
Let me see.
My Spartans at? Y'all up in here? Wait a minute, let me check. Red's in here.
Good child.
My Spartans at? Where are Jordan at? You still here? Death Note's in here. You know what I mean? Got my warriors up in here, man.
Oh, we been here all night looking at that. Wait a minute.
What happened to them thumbs up? I thought y'all loved Domino's. With a thumbs up.
Do.
I know Derek Gaines love him some Domino's.
I know I got to check on him. He been quiet all day long.
Yeah, I was thinking that too when I was looking for my little roll call just now.
You been a lot of MIA folk, but we gon'
We've been going on early. You know, you're usually over here when the titties come out, you know.
Hold on, wait a minute. JD Vance, that gotta be old. That gotta be from this weekend. Hold on. He's in Virginia? Hold on. Running mate. After. Oh shit. Yep, nope. Worse that later too.
Black women ain't gonna march for that. That ain't
Oh, hang on. Let's take a look at this real quick. This is the last one we're gonna look at, y'all, and then we're gonna wrap this up for the evening. This is from this child, cause hell I've been doing since 10 o'clock this morning.
Hey, baby, you know, sometimes you gotta put that work in for your man.
And for somebody who gotta be up at 5:30, because I literally gotta go in the office. I can't be on here with y'all all night. I love y'all, but listen. This from Megyn Kelly. So supposedly this is what was going on with her and Willie Brown. I don't know, but Megyn Kelly finna tell us all about it. Hold on.
I will not be shamed out of discussing this by people who say it's slut shaming or it's not relevant. It is relevant when a young candidate tries to sleep her way into politics and into power. And that is what it appears Kamala Harris did when she was a young political aspirant in San Francisco, when she had an affair with a man 30 years older than she was. She was 29 to 30 and he was 60, Willie Brown, who was like the godfather of San Francisco politics and very well known. And sure enough, that relationship paid dividends for her in more ways than one.
That's right, Megan. As you noted yesterday, it's completely fair game to talk about Willie Brown. It's how Kamala Harris went from a relatively unknown Alameda County prosecutor to the forefront of San Francisco social life and politics. Willie Brown was the most powerful politician in California when Kamala Harris started dating him. And he also gave her a number of positions. We're talking about $400,000 back in the 1990s. That's almost $800,000 in today's money. He appointed her to those positions that paid her lucratively. He gave her the keys to a BMW. And he went around the most powerful and most wealthy circles of San Francisco and California politics.
Hold on, bro, because you up here telling everything. Listen, quick question, y'all. Is Kamala Poo-Poo, was it good like that back in the day? Because I mean, clearly it ain't hitting on nothing. If the only thing you can lock down is a old small head man who already had 5 kids, so he didn't want no more. Kamala, you sound like you wore your shit out, baby girl. What are you? This is not good coochie management. But let's go. This ain't good coochie management.
With Kamala Harris on his arm, opening up the doors to her professional and political future.
So it was back when, again, she was 30 years old. He was at the time Democratic Speaker of the California State Assembly, quoting here from a Washington Examiner piece, which is very good. The position that he gave her on the California Medical Assistance Commission in 1994 paid at that time over $70,000 a year, which is about $120,000 in current money. And she served on the board until 1998, so about 4 years. That medical commission met twice a month. So for 2 meetings a month, she was getting the equivalent of $120,000. And you know why Democrats in San Francisco were mad about it? It wasn't because she wasn't qualified, which she wasn't. It was because those positions are supposed to be saved for only the most prized Democrats who Willie Brown really owed favors to, who did really, amazing things to keep Willie Brown in power. But instead, he gave one to his lover. He was, by the way, still married, though he was reportedly estranged from his wife for a long time. So, this was technically an extramarital relationship. And they were mad that he gave one of his choice grifting positions, not to somebody who'd done a lot for Democratic politicians, but to Kamala Harris. And not just that, there was another one. He gave her a second position as well, which was basically the same kind of deal, where he just gave her an appointment. She reeked in tons of money, and boom, Bob's your uncle. She was off to the races in Dem politics. And then Willie Brown is on record as saying, I also then helped her with her next big position, which was becoming San Francisco DA.
Right. When she ran for district attorney, they had broken up. Willie Brown, as soon as he ran and won the San Francisco mayor election, he broke up with Kamala. And then, Kamala was there for the victory party. But by the time the inauguration hit, his estranged wife reappeared to be holding the Bible while he took the oath of office. And Kamala was kind of pushed aside. But Willie Brown didn't forget her. When Kamala decided to run for district attorney of San Francisco, he was there quietly nudging all of his wealthy donors and powerful connections to help her out. Him and Terrence Hallinan, the existing district attorney, were not friends anymore. They had kind of had an ugly clash. And Kamala Harris likewise tried to overthrow Hallinan's second in command, but failed miserably. And so she ended up leaving the office to kind of plot her revenge. So Willie Brown was definitely there behind the scenes, but Kamala Harris did as much as she could before the election to distance herself from Willie Brown. At one point, doing a very long interview with San Francisco magazine, throwing him under the bus entirely, saying, Willie Brown's career is over. He's done. Hello. My turn is here. It's Kamala Harris. Sounds really familiar, Megan, compared to what just happened last weekend.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the whole Democratic Party is going to be stepping all over Joe Biden momentarily. He's going to get his weekend in the sun about what a lion he is. And then as soon as they realize that they can blame everything on him and take it off of Kamala, that's what they're going to do. Every inflation number you've seen, it's all his fault. She didn't touch it. She was just a lowly vice president. What was she supposed to do? But talk to me a little bit about her background, because if she rose in San Francisco and then California, right, as the attorney general, and then became a U.S. senator from California, all she's had to do is compete, for the most part, I know there's some exceptions, against other liberals, right? Like, has she ever had to compete against a bull, like Donald Trump, like the silverback gorilla, like Donald Trump, Republican versus Dem? It's on. I realized that she ran as the vice president, but she wasn't the chief. That was really Joe Biden's fight.
Well, the interesting race is when she ran against Steve Cooley for the attorney general position in 2010. Cooley was a relatively sensible law and order Republican from Los Angeles, and really the last meaningful Republican in California politics. And even it was a big year for Democrats. They won by double digits for California Democrats. But Kamala Harris really struggled against Steve Cooley and barely etched out a victory. It looked like the night of the election that she had lost. And lo and behold, weeks later, they did recounts and recounted all the rest of the votes, and she just barely squeaked off a victory. It was close. And you can definitely look at that campaign and see that, maybe she will be competitive in this race against Donald Trump as well, but it's hard to see that happening.
Some are now trying to excuse her awkwardness, repeated and everywhere, as she lost her footing as vice president and didn't have the confidence required to really be herself, which I guess is this secret version of charming. Is there anything in her past that would shed light on what's true about her? Has she always been awkward like this, with the weird laughing and the inappropriate jokes and the every time the failed attempts at profundity?
Yeah, a lot of it's the product of being a California politician, right? When you're a California Democrat, all you have to do is impress the donors, impress the political power brokers, and kind of show up and demand a seat at the table. Willie Brown taught her how to do that. So she did have some level of that with the top donors, but she never really connected with the California people. But as we've shown earlier, you don't necessarily need to convince voters. You just need to convince the Democratic Party, and everything will fall in line for you pretty well. So what's
that pattern repeated itself? Sorry, keep going, Charlie.
Yeah, and so the same thing happened when she ran for Senate. She's a very good candidate. She's very disciplined. She loves the sort of the knife fighting and the brawling. She's on the record saying she loves California politics because it's a real fight. So she is a sort of a ruthless politician, a ruthless campaigner. But after after taking office, there's definitely a drop down. Once you actually have to do the job, she never seemed to take it seriously and spent more time planning for her next job. That's kind of what we saw in the first 3 years of her vice presidency. She really was risk averse, didn't seem to be interested in the job she had, but more interested in protecting her own political brand for the future. And I think when a politician hits that stage, the early stage of actually having to do the job, I think that's when they tend to lose their footing and stumble. And I think that's what Kamala Harris ended up looking like. And that's why her staff kind of abandoned her, because she wasn't serious about the office she was holding. And she was more interested in preparing herself to run for president.
Yeah, the reports were that she would fail to read the briefing materials that she was given by the staff, and then she would lash out at the staff for her not knowing information. And meanwhile, she just refused to do her homework. This wasn't in right-wing blogs that just hated Kamala Harris. This was reported even in the mainstream about her terrible behavior as vice president. But now, okay, so we're one day into her likely being the Democratic nominee. She does this first appearance yesterday. And this line, this soundbite, by now, you've seen it. Our audience has heard it. It's everywhere. The Democrats are like, you go, girl. Because of this, it's SOT 4.
Before that, I was a courtroom prosecutor. In those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
We got a
Protein bars can be chewy and dense, or so chalky that they crumble apart in your hand. But I want to tell you about the launch of Magic Spoon Treats. You probably know Magic Spoon for their popular high-protein cereal, right? That has more than 75,000 five-star reviews. Well, Magic Spoon has turned their cereal now into high-protein treats that are light, crispy, and taste just like those classic crunchy cereal bars. Magic Spoon's brand new treats come in 6 deliciously nostalgic flavors, including marshmallow, chocolatey peanut butter, blueberry, birthday cake, yum, and strawberry milkshake. Magic Spoon treats are a tasty time machine back to your childhood. You likely know Magic Spoon cereal, and now we are excited to bring you the news about the launch of their treats. Scoop up these new crispy, crunchy, protein-packed treats right now with 10% off just by going to magicspoon.com/MK or use the promo code MK when you place your order at magicspoon.com. Magic spoon. Hold on to the dream. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips.
I
And
appreciate you with that information, Megan. Appreciate that. Kamala, old hoe. All right. Girl, what the hell?
I told you that Freaknik shit was real back in the day. She was there.
Listen, I'm just saying, like, okay. Kamala, I'm just saying, like, you couldn't for all that hoeing and all that exposure, oh boy, the best you could come up with.
Yeah, she needed somebody who could shut the fuck up. He quiet. You don't never see
Man,
him.
hell, he probably make her shut the fuck up. The only time she get to talk is when she the only time she get to talk is when she giving them speech. She don't be running nothing up in there. I guarantee it.
She might give him that good guap. That's probably her secret. Like Fanny. That was Fanny's secret.
Child.
With that banging
Okay.
guap.
Okay. Listen. Child. Woo. All out here throwing cooch. But my thing is, you're gonna throw cooch and it actually work in your favor. Be competent. Be able to do what you asking for. That's all.
Nah, they just want the title. It's just like they want the wedding. They don't want the marriage. They want the wedding. Same thing. They just want the title. They want the degree, but they don't want
Speaking of the devil, look who done showed up. What's going on, Derek? How you doing? You all right?
Derek, the legend.
What about you? You okay?
James. What is your profession?
You good?
Oh, sleepy ass.
Yeah, man, child. Look, sound like she been for the street, the sidewalk, and the interstate. Shit. Ooh, child. So I got to find Willie Brown.
Blackjack coming here with all that damn dirt. I like this.
You know what I'm talking about? Damn. Y'all know what every time somebody say something about Willie Brown, I think about Tommy Sotomayor and Kwame Brown, that beef they had. You know, his daddy name Willie.
Oh, yeah.
Tommy was wearing his ass out.
Shout out to the architect of all of this, Tommy Sotomayor, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not familiar,
yes.
You gotta give respect to the greats.
Controversial. Ooh, downtown Willie Brown. Yeah. We gonna do it. We got to see about Willie. What else Willie got?
Shout out to the other greats. Shout out to Angry Man, aka Valdez. Shout out to Uncle D, Dennis Sperling. Right. Shout out to Obsidian. He was pretty good on
and most importantly, shout out to Coach Greg Adams.
Shout out to the coach, the notorious PGA, ladies and gentlemen. And RIP to our godfather of style, Kevin Samuels.
Yup. All right, y'all. How about everybody we just named except for Kevin Samuels is on currently? And with that, we approaching 10:30. We're gonna go ahead. Hold on, what you say? What you say, Derek? You did a review of 300 okay. You review 300 last time. Yeah. Did you say you did? I did. You right. I popped in for a little bit. I had to think. Y'all be so much going on out here in the YouTube streets. All right, y'all. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I appreciate each and every one of y'all for coming through. Y'all been rocking with me all day long. We started out with the congressional hearing about the assassination attempt, but it was grilling the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
Then we took it to the Trump rally here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and now we ended this evening up with them little 5 minutes of babble from our president. Because I still don't know what the hell Joe was talking about.
You gave him 3 strokes. Leave Joe alone. He's still getting in.
Yeah, we done watched it twice, and I still don't know what went on. I'm gonna leave it at that. If there is any more congressional hearings in regards to the assassination attempt, I will be bringing that to y'all. I ain't never gonna forget about you.
Hopefully we can get back on course tomorrow, maybe with some YSL information.
I don't think nothing popping off till Tuesday. I think that's what I read.
Oh, okay.
Unless some more motions get filed.
She got in the ass today talking about, look, y'all gonna be on time here.
Yeah, child, ain't nobody playing these games. Yeah, y'all, ain't nobody playing these games. Y'all get y'all life right. I'm just saying, have some respect for the court. Have some respect for the court. Have some respect for policy and procedure. Something the Democrats ain't showing y'all how to do right now. They ain't having no respect for policy and procedure. None whatsoever. But you know what I'm saying, they got an answer for that. That's on them. But again, y'all, to everybody, I do appreciate each and every one of y'all for stopping by, subscribing, supporting, sharing, and commenting in the chat, and just, you know what I'm saying, just rocking with me literally all day long. We have put in a shift and a half. Again, I will see y'all tomorrow. Anything going on between now and then, I will post it on the community page. So y'all definitely make sure you are on that, keeping an eye on that as well. You guys be safe and have a fantastic rest of the evening. Again, I appreciate you all. Bye.